In the budget?
All right, welcome and thank you for coming. Our chair is absent tonight, so I'll be taking over tonight. With that, I will turn to Kyle for the budget. Where's the flag? It's over there.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'd like to thank all of you for coming. We have, we'll be split into two different segments this evening. The first segment is our budget workshop, or work session, sorry, which is basically more going to be an overview with some comments and questions. If the public wishes to comment, there'll be time at the end when they'll be asking for public comment at that point. We'll have an additional public comment once the regular board meeting starts shortly thereafter, or right after. So with that, I believe we'll turn right over to Carrie for a review of our current budget increase.
Yep. So after the meeting on the 20th, we went back and looked at, based on comments, the motion that was made at the last meeting was put on here, so we can clean that up. But we went back and looked at a couple items, so I just want to update you on some changes that are reflected in the tan papers that you've made.
Could you hold on 1 second?
Yep. Want to angle
Kyle,
it?
could you
Just
turn that just a
angle it a little
smidgen
bit for
so
people to
that
see.
people in the can see that easier?
Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. So well, I take it. I'm sorry, you guys. I apologize to you guys. Can you see it at all?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
Okay, so we went back and looked at the high school guidance position, and with reductions made in other parts of the budget and reviewing that position, we've restored that to what it was. So there's not a reduction there anymore. So that's an increase. We did reduce IXL, which is the software used pretty much in every school. We reduced that by $5,456. We reduced the range of programming that kids can have access to. We had reported to you last time that we'd found an error. There are going to be we need to install flashing lights at Turner Primary School for traffic control. We had double budgeted that, so we removed $18,500 because we only need $18,500. We don't need it twice. There was also a staff travel line that was discussed at the last meeting. We've removed that. And we've reduced furniture expenses by $1,000, primarily at central office and green. We'll look at for some lower cost alternatives. So it's $500 from each of those lines. So right now we've decreased the budget by $14,151. So not a substantial amount, but it is down that. There's a couple of questions we'll go over questions in a second. So any questions about those? We didn't do anything with uniforms because there was a motion around that. So is there any questions about that? Yep.
Those are the flashing lights by central office.
There will be flashing lights by Turner Primary School. So there's two safety things we've got budgeted for. One is this traffic safety lights at Turner Primary School.
Correct.
And then the second is the crosswalk flashing lights and that crosswalk by central office because it's heavily used by students.
Okay.
So the TPS lights were the ones that we double budgeted, right? So we had two $18,500 items in there because we just thought we needed one for each, but it's 18 is for the total for both ends of the road.
Got it.
And I did reach out to the town manager in Turner to ask about that. What he provided me, he said he'd bring it to his board, but his take on it is that because the need for those flashing lights is because of the schools, that is likely why it would be a school expense, but he was going to reach out to, the DOT, the regional DOT traffic engineer to get some information on that, and I just haven't heard back from him. So that's where we are with that.
Thank you.
Yep. The only thing I didn't reach out to him yet on was the garbage removal, whether or not we can get on that. We just didn't get to it between then and now.
Anybody have any questions for Carrie on this?
And then, let me just say
Oh,
on
I'm
no, just on the software, so the question had been asked is what's the total amount that we're spending on software subscriptions? So last time I reported to you how much we've reduced. We had reduced over $17,000 although now it's more because it would be 17 plus that 5. So what that leaves, and Gabby, I'm just gonna double check, is 49,681.
I'm gonna say yes, if that's the number I gave you earlier.
It is the number
today.
you gave me.
Okay.
So that is 17 plus 5 less than what was in the budget last year. So $22,000 reduction, 23,000. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Peter, can I ask a question about that?
Of course.
Okay,
Of course.
thank you. Does that include the online portion for Into Reading and Illustrative Math, or are those separate?
So if they were included in the regular instruction software lines, then it does include it. If
Okay.
those were in a different line.
They weren't, they were in the regular instruction software, from my memory. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we also discussed at the last meeting the regular instruction reserve account. If you recall, we established that account last year with $100,000, and essentially that is a reserve account for if we should have like a bubble group of kindergartners that we did not anticipate, and all of a sudden kindergarten classes are 20 or whatever, and it allows us to hire a teacher after the budget process. So that money is still there. We talked about, Gabby and I proposed adding $200,000 to that for this year to make that account be $300,000. And the reason we had talked about doing that was we are in a quandary about our federal funding. We don't know what's going to happen with the title funding, and we have multiple employees that are paid out of title funding. And so if that money should leave partway through the year, like this budget will be passed before any of that is resolved. So we were suggesting a buffer to deal with that mid-year so that we can avoid sort of like chaos, mid-year layoffs, trying to figure out leads and green are where both of those sets of employees are. So they would be down a significant number of people to keep the school running, to get us time to be able to deal with that in the next budget. So not that it would automatically, everything would go into the budget after that, but it would allow us time to deal with it in a thoughtful manner and not just have to cut everything mid-year. When we brought that up at the last meeting, there was some discussion of increasing that even more and getting it to 500,000, which sort of Gabby modeled that out. And so I think we're not sure that's the right thing to do. That number might be too high because it might leave our fund balance, unallocated fund balance, low.
At $613,000.
Which puts our carryover in next year at it just starts to get a little bit hairy in terms of, we typically plan for at least $550,000 carryover, $555,000 carryover from the fund balance into this year's budget. So that's what we've done this year, that's what we did last year. So that starts to get tight there. Plus, some years the board may decide, you know what, extraordinary circumstances, we're going to carry over more, right? So not sure going to 500,000, taking 400 out and putting it in is,
Well, what
that
does
might
it
be a
take
little
our
too high.
fund balance to?
If we made the reserve account 500,000, then the unallocated fund balance would be,
$613,000, not including whatever is projected to be left over at the end of this fiscal year. That's still unknown. I will say though that is anticipating that there still is a 9% allowable cap, in your fund balance. If it goes down to 5%, that changes things considerably.
so, I think.
Which we've heard that they could go down to 5%, correct?
Yep, that law, so the law could return, it was 5% prior to the pandemic. During the pandemic is when the legislature sort of like loosened that a little bit for all kinds of good reasons. And so I think it's set to go back to 5, but there's a bill on the floor to keep it at 9. So I think just some conversation and around that will be helpful for us in terms of what those final numbers will be.
So can we get a reclarification then? So if we go to the 500,000, it is, and I'm sorry, I'm staring right at
Yep.
but what is that put us at our carryover right now? 600 and something?
Our carryover in this budget is $550,000. That would be
Yeah.
fine. It would be next
Yeah, well,
year's
next year's
carryover.
carryover, we're assuming that would drop below the 550 by how much?
It will not drop below it, it's just putting us very close to it. So if the board decides, if there's this huge increase, in valuation, substantive change, then there isn't a lot of wiggle room, depending on what the budget ends at this year. Just looking at what we know is there, that would only give us a total of $613,000, which is $60,000 above what we typically carry forward, what we have been carrying forward.
And just as a reminder, this year's budget, we have frozen it because we anticipate overspending in special ed. So what typically might be left over in a fund balance may be less.
You folks on the board remember our discussion at the last couple of meetings in regards to why this exists. I'm not going to rehash some of my concerns on it because God only knows when it comes to the federal, God only knows what the president will do and then what the courts will do and who knows. At the state, again, who knows exactly? Nobody will know for another 3 months. So all the budgets are done. So, it could be a wash, it could not be. So I'm just going to go around. Right now, we're looking at the admin feels we should stay at 3. Do you feel comfortable at 3, or would you feel comfortable at 4, but 5 is just one step too far, or would you like to stay at 3? What is the administrative suggestion?
It's all so unknown. I'd like to think, we've made a guesstimate that if we get the title money, but it's at a reduction, I think it'll probably be 400. You predicted a $45,000 cut, which still has us over 400, right?
It's all way back.
Yes, except our first cut was 47%. So if it's all 47%, then
Yeah.
my guessing is off.
But the 300 would be enough to make up for the part we lose, versus if we lost all of it. Like the scenario of
Yes.
losing all of it,
That's a whole new ballgame.
right, that's a whole, if
Yes.
we lost all of it, then that's a whole another issue. But if it's just a massive cut, then 300 is enough.
I personally don't think we'll lose it all. My suspicion is there'll be a month or 2 months or something where all of a sudden that we have to fill in the gaps. But anyways, I'm sorry, what were you saying? I cut you off. Teresa?
No, just, like Carrie said, it's so unpredictable.
I am reading Carrie's mind right now, and I feel she's feeling comfortable at 300,000, but she hasn't really wanted to go there. I'm going to go around real quick because this is an important number for us moving forward. So I'd like all of you, we'll start with Anthony, to say if we feel we should be at 300,000 or more.
Well, I'm terrible at predicting the future, but 300,000 seems reasonable.
I would be in favor if they're not comfortable with going up higher on the reserve. I'm comfortable at 300.
Thank you.
I'm also comfortable putting 300 in.
And just to emphasize, that's putting 200 in
Correct, for a total of 3.
for a total of 3.
Same.
If I'm not mistaken, the rest of it, I should know this, but I don't, can we approach it? Like the extra money that we don't touch there, if everything does go down the drain, is it touchable at all?
The unallocated
Yeah,
fund?
unallocated, we can't touch it till next year?
That's correct.
Okay, so we either gotta do something with it now, so that
Yes.
200,000, we gotta do something with it now, or it's not,
Or it's not accessible.
we can't touch it for a
Can't
year.
have it.
Well, you'd have to do another public vote, right? Wouldn't you have to, I think you might have to go through the whole
Yeah,
process.
so we could go out to the
Not
public,
touchable,
but we
correct.
can't do it ourselves, we have to
Correct,
go to the public.
that's correct.
Okay.
And the reserves accounts are clearly stated what they can be used for, so we couldn't take reserve
Yeah.
money from one thing,
We could, we'd have to go to the budget.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, yes?
kind of on the same line of what you just asked. If we did put the 500,000 and we didn't need it, where does that go?
So our recommendation was that if next year we do not need it, that we transfer that to the capital
Okay,
improvement
all right.
one, because that reserve account for regular instruction, I think 100,000 is sufficient. That's like one teacher, it's a couple of techs, like, you know what I mean? It's sufficient to address, you know, sort of a surprise bubble of kids or something.
But it doesn't get to go back into rollover.
We would have to,
Whatever it's
yeah, I
called.
think the language that Gabby put in there was that if we didn't need it, it would move to facilities.
Okay.
You have any thoughts?
No boss here.
Okay. Jamie?
Did you say your thought?
I'm following into the chairman's
Oh,
prerogative of going
okay.
last.
I think that I feel comfortable at 300 as well. If that's what Gabby feels comfortable.
I know, right? Gabby and I are like, oh.
I mean, I would not be opposed to like upping it to 400 either, just knowing that it would then go to capital improvements, and we know that there are a lot of capital improvements that need to be made. As long as that's the backup plan and that's how Gabby words it, I feel comfortable with that. But if you guys feel safe at 300, then
Alex?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think that I wouldn't want to go much more. I think the 300 is a reasonable buffer zone. I think it's probably unlikely we lose it all outright, and that's a whole nother special meeting event, I guess. So I think I'd be comfortable with the 3 following administration.
I'm in the same boat. Great.
Yeah. I'm very much with Jamie. I think I would probably feel more comfortable jumping it up to 4, kind of playing down the middle. But do you need more of an official? Do you want to go with an official, or does that give you a straw basically at 3?
We'll bring that on the 10th. I mean,
Okay.
that, you know what I mean? But it just we need direction on that, so
Yeah.
this is helpful.
So it sounds like, from what I'm reading, 300,000, and if you're feeling it, if Gabby's feeling it, we can jump it up to the 4 or 5, you know.
Yeah, seriously, that was a burden.
We'll run you over the bus, don't you worry.
So I just want to follow up on the questions that sort of came in between last time and this time. I've answered a couple of them, but I want to get back to them. I know, Jamie, you had asked for a list of positions that are being eliminated. I provided that in an email, but I thought I'd bring hard copy and just put it up there. And what you have here is it details which of these positions are filled and unfilled, and if there are openings that might be available to employees. Okay, so of the 21 positions, 9 of them, oh, I wrote 9 is filled twice. The bottom, it should be unfilled. 11 are filled, 9 are unfilled. Jeez, I'm pro. Sorry about that. Change it right on here. In almost every case, there is an equivalent position, not in every single case. A couple of the options require additional certification, and I think I've said before, where employees have indicated interest, we have been working with them to try and get them the education they need to be able to apply for an open position that is available but requires more training. Another question that came in was around, we've posted for a speech pathologist, but we've eliminated 2 positions, and I just want to say out loud again, the speech pathologist, the employee, is the cheaper option, but we are struggled multiple years now to hire. We have 1, we need 3. So we have eliminated those positions from the budget and increased our contract line significantly to deal with that. I think it's $220,000. We are still going to try and find a speech pathologist, because then we don't have to spend $150,000 on a contract. So that's sort of, I think people saw that posting and wondered why that was, and that's because that's the cheaper option and the best option, to have somebody who's an employee that we don't have to pay that contract. But we have to have that money in the budget, because that's part of the overage this year in special ed, is that we have not accounted for those contracts. We have been okay with spending money with open positions, so if they're open, we're not spending the money in salaries, so we spend the money in contracts, but it's so substantially more than an employee that it's put all of that over.
Anybody on the board have questions regarding the positions?
I gave you the subscriptions. I think somebody asked about whether or not if Bus Right could be purchased as a group if we get a reduction, and we already get the cheaper rate because we sing their praises to other people and they like us.
And because we were the first school, one of the very first schools to sign up for this. So they still extended the lower rate to us. The reason that it's gone up is because we've added additional, thank you, iPads in the buses.
So there's not, we can't get it, there's not an opportunity to do group rate. There's some discussion at the state of providing districts money to pay for whatever transportation software they want, instead of the state providing the free one that nobody likes, but we've not heard whether or not that's gonna happen. That'd be the best case scenario, because I think districts just wanna do what makes sense to them, rather than the state continue to fund a transportation software that nobody likes and wants to use. But we have not heard other than that. Let's see. Talked about furniture. Anthony, I apologize last time. You had asked for this information and I just thought it would come up again and I didn't say it. I had it at the last meeting, so I apologize. You asked for the total amount for elementary Chromebooks and iPads. And you asked for the salary and benefits for the instructional coach positions. So the total amount for Chromebooks and iPads in K-3, so I said elementary, but K-3. K-3 is $85,920, and then instructional coaches is $534,151.
Can you say the Chromebook number again?
$85,920. And that's iPads and Chromebooks, so kindergarten and third grade.
And to clarify, that's how many instructional coaches? 6?
6.
Can you say that
Thank
number
you.
again too?
Yep, 534,000, I mean, round it,
Round
51.
it,
Yeah.
No change?
What, no change?
No.
I do know that there's conversation, and this is just informational for you, and I know this is part of your conversation, or your question, Anthony, in terms of when you were communicating with a community member, around research for instructional coaches. We've spent a lot of time talking about that. You've had a lot of presentations, but I think information beyond just how it's working here in terms of the overall impact, I just thought I would share sort of a summary research document that pulls together a bunch of research around the effectiveness of job-embedded daily professional development, and in particular on teachers who are new to the profession in terms of trying to stop the turnover and people leaving the profession. So I'm just going to share this with you. If you want the document that's got links, I'm happy to provide that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let me just see if I
Oh,
got
sorry.
everything.
Ashley?
Yeah, I just have a question. Has there ever
Ashley.
been,
Ashley?
like,
Ashley? Speak up a little.
has there ever been like a survey or anything that's gone out to teachers to ask how they're receiving the instructional coaches, or they feel it's effective?
Who's done a
The coaches send out surveys asking people what they would like to work with them for, or when they want to sign up to work with them. In terms of satisfaction, I don't recall that we've sent out surveys about any.
We've been
positions.
monitoring how many teachers working with them, right? And how often they're providing professional development, but not a direct question to teachers.
And that's now been put into teacher evaluation, so within a 3-year cycle, a teacher is expected to work with an instructional coach in some capacity.
So there are some teachers that feel forced to work with instructional coaches?
There are some teachers. or-
Yeah, so it's not an option.
So it's an expectation, because it is something that the district spends a significant amount of money for professional development. Whoa, something's going on. Everybody okay? Okay, it's all right. So because of the investment, it is an expectation But not all teachers are really interested in doing that, for sure. Yep.
Yeah, it's not a conversation for now, the budget, but I'd be interested in the future, maybe getting broader anonymous feedback from teachers in the district, what their thoughts are on do they find them useful or effective versus what the coaches are saying.
Well, we don't have just from coaches. I mean, we do have from teachers in terms of when they are doing the coaching cycle, so the people who are engaging. And then just this year in particular, a significant amount has gone into the reading implementation and people really leaning on those coaches at the elementary level to help with that implementation. Whether or not they're doing a full cycle, using those coaches to say like, how do I do this? Like, where do I find this stuff? You know, that kind of thing. But yes, I think it's a good idea. Trying to think if there's anything else.
Again, just on piggyback on what Ashley was saying, and again, this is not the time, but when we do have the discussions on instructional coaches, I think we've talked about already, is to really see how many people they are working with.
Yep.
And I want to emphasize what Ashley was saying in regards to an anonymous and school-wide, just not the ones that are working with them. I want to know what the whole teaching staff as a whole feels about the coaches in the school.
Yep.
And so forth.
Yep. So I did provide the information about how many coaching cycles have occurred so far this year. I think we're at 48 or 49. Last year we were at 44 total. And that's in every single school. So there's not a school where those aren't happening.
Except for Tripp Middle
Except
School.
for Tripp, because there isn't one there, right? And last year there wasn't one at Leeds. So we do have that, and we do have the number of professional development sessions they provide at staff meetings, during PLC time, that kind of thing.
Thank you.
Okay,
hold
so,
on.
yep, sorry.
Brianna?
Well,
Bree?
I think that it's sometimes I feel like it's hard when the coaches come to do a presentation because, like, again, they often tell us, like, we're really helping teachers with implementing the into reading, or next year will be the new math curriculum. I thank you for giving us those numbers and providing the impact that they have towards students, because I think we need to also understand that instructional coaches are also teachers in the building, and they do work with the teachers within the classrooms. Like, I think a lot of emphasis is mentioned about the professional development and how they are helping teachers implement new curriculum, but when that new curriculum isn't so new anymore, they are still needed because they still work with teachers, whether they are in their first 3 years or they are a veteran teacher, and they go into the classrooms. And so reaching 802 students, or working with a gym teacher who covers every single student in the building, those numbers are what we should maybe put a little more emphasis and focus on. They are still teachers. They do still work in the classroom side by side with the content teacher, co-teaching, co-evaluating, helping the teacher look at the grades that they're getting and seeing, are they meeting the standards, and what can we do if they aren't, and reteaching. And there's a lot that goes on to those coaching cycles, and sometimes I don't know if we really see the full picture when they come here. They obviously talk a lot about the impact they have on a teacher in the classroom. I'd love to hear more than just the teachers having a survey, but looking at students, because that's the role of education, is the students. It's super important to make sure that our teachers are supported and they're getting professional development, like right here in district. We don't always have to send them out to different places or bring in other people. That gets very expensive. But we need to look at the students and the student growth and the impact that all adults, as a matter of fact, all adults in the building have an influence on the children, and the bus drivers, not just in the building, but all the adults that interact with the children have an impact. And I think we need to look a little more at those numbers, and not just, this teacher doesn't want to reach out to do PD. Well, you know what? There's lots of teachers who say, I don't want to go to that conference. They're making me go. Okay, but that doesn't mean that that conference wouldn't be beneficial to them. So I kind of steer away from thinking about some of that and looking more at the impact, the direct impact we're having on the children.
All right,
So anytime we can have those numbers and that evidence would be very beneficial.
At this time, I'd like to emphasize that currently our instructional coaches are not in the budget to be cut or eliminated. They're
Not
just,
recommended.
so it's not recommended or
Yeah.
even discussed
But
at
the
this point.
questions come up. so
But the
that's
question
why.
has come up,
Yeah.
so we're having a lot of discussion, but if somebody thinks that's what, that is not at this time. All right, what's next?
Okay, so I just wanted to do, you have an updated revenue sheet, so I just wanted to just quickly go over that. We do that every time. So at this point, with $14,000 removed, the budget's at a 6.79% increase over last year. And we have reduced the change at the locals by 0.01, I think. So the average is 7.54, and it looks different in each town depending on the valuation of the town.
Oh, we're no longer 7.99?
I know,
7.9.
that getting rid of that 9 in Turner was important, yes. And the direction from the board has been clear. So a couple things before I move on. Gabby, so you guys have information as we sort of move into April 10th. April 10th is sort of the deadline for when we need to approve a budget. And the one number that we will not know until April 10th is that insurance increase. So Gabby and I did do some modeling of like best case and worst case. So I just want to say those numbers out loud because I do think we need to be prepared to react to them. So last year was awesome. We will not repeat last year. I think we were 1% or 1.8%, yes, 1.85%. So let's say best case scenario, it's a 7% increase, right? So we're not at 10%, we budgeted at 10. If it comes in at 7, we will be able to remove about $100,000 from the budget.
150, yeah.
100 what?
Between 100 and 150. because
Okay,
we've
all
got
right.
positions.
Okay, I want to under-promise, over-deliver.
Sorry.
It's 100,000.
100,000.
We may be able to do more, but I'd like to just, we think that's probably our best-case scenario, is that we're going to come in at about 7%. If we come in at 14%, that is an increase to the budget of about $200,000. That number is very, very concerning to us, and I think we would need to react to that. I do not think we could add that and then just move forward. I think we would need to react to that. So I think Gabby and I, with Teresa and the other administrators, will create a plan if we need to react to a number that is that high. And I just want to say out loud, like, we won't have time beyond April 10th to sort of debate that. So hopefully, you know, we can put some things together, but I just need you to be aware that if that number really comes up that substantially high, we will not be able to stay with what we have. So the 10th will be a much different meeting in terms of what we need to be able to react to, and we won't really have another meeting for people to think about it. Like the 10th is the last day in terms of us meeting the legal obligations for our budget votes and getting things out to the public and that kind of thing. So just thought it was important to sort of know what those numbers could be and what the impact could be and sort of what that would leave us with.
Alex?
He's pointing at me.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
thought you were doing yourself and I
Can
was
you
like,
just
no.
repeat the 14%? What was that increase?
$200,000.
Okay.
Would Gabby like to give us what she believes it's going to be?
202,000.
No, I'm kidding.
No.
I was throwing you under the bus again.
Gabby does not want to give you her best
Oh,
guess
no,
at that
no,
number.
no.
Absolutely not.
I'm
We
well aware.
modeled 7 and 14, so we would know what we think our best case scenario is. We just really don't think it's going to be lower than 7%. And I don't think we're going to be, I mean, the entire state is up 17%, right? So Anthem has told us, or MBAT, Maine Benefits Trust that runs this whole thing, they have told us that the total increase for the entire plan is 17%, but that looks different at each district because of the experience model. So,
We can't really get into details, but have we had a bad year or a good year when it comes to that?
It wasn't as good as last year.
And when I mean, I'm talking injuries and workers' comp claims and so forth, so I just.
well, workers' comp.
No,
claim
workers'
would
comp,
not-
but injury, yeah, insurance claims. Sorry,
It has to
insurance
do
claims.
with how much we pay in premiums and how much is
Yeah.
used, right? So
No.
that's why we're not thinking it's going to be as low as it was last year. Like it's just not, we don't think that's a reasonable thing to consider.
Anyone else have any questions regarding that? seeing what's next.
So the vote on the budget, all the documents again are posted on the website. So by meeting, and then the first budget vote, the district budget meeting is May 8th, 6 o'clock at the high school. And the referendum is in people's town offices from 1 to 7 o'clock on Thursday, May 22nd.
And I'd like to emphasize when it comes to the budget website, specifically on our final budget meeting, if you want to follow along, our budget book is there.
And
So
every
you can
update is
actually
there.
follow the budget updated, with the exception of what we do that evening. So you can follow along with what we're doing in our books if you just have it on your phone or iPad or however you want to look at it, if you can get to it. All right. Anything else before we go to public comment on budget?
Well, we'd have a motion to take care of.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, we forgot about the, we jumped all the way down to the, all right. So everything else set except for the t-shirts?
Yep, we just have to go back to that motion.
Okay, so we currently, at this point, we're bringing back a motion from the last meeting. The motion was made by myself, seconded by Bree. It was to cut, I believe, a very long numbered line, which was the transportation uniforms, which was t-shirts for the bus drivers and vehicle drivers.
Gabby, you just remind us how much is in that line?
$1,100.
So the motion still stands, and we're at discussion, does administration?
So I let you know that Jim was
Yeah.
able to be here tonight, but Gabby did have a conversation with him, so I'm going to let Gabby talk about why that line is there.
So he did reiterate that it was to boost morale. He also noted that many of the bus drivers are still wearing apparel from previous districts that they worked in. So he's hoping to eliminate that with our district apparel and get them to support wearing that. So that's the big driver behind that. To do something for them, boost morale, and to see our bus drivers in MSAD52 apparel as opposed to another district.
Any other questions from the board at this time? Questions, comments? At that point, I guess we'll take a vote. All those in favor of cutting the $1,100 out of the budget for the equipment, not the equipment, sorry, the transportation uniforms. Raise your hand. 2, 3.
Wait,
Oh.
Kyle?
4 if you're.
Bree, Peter, Anthony, Kyle?
1, 2, 3. Oh, 4 myself. Sorry. All those opposed to cutting? Ready for the math?
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh, without Joe.
For
we're
those
gonna
of you who are not
have
familiar,
Jamie.
every town has a
Alex,
different
were you
weighted
keep it?
vote.
Okay.
Yes.
So when we do have a tie, which is only if somebody's missing, we actually have to do do the math to see what the final outcome is.
Since I knew this, I was like, oh, this is gonna be the night.
But it's good to let them know.
Oh, absolutely. It's a good exercise. But when you have 3
So
Turner going
Crystal
in
is
one
a
direction.
yes. Alex is a yes. Jamie is a yes. Peter is a
No.
no. Geez, I'm
Wait a
doing
second.
it backwards. I'm doing it
No,
backwards.
yeah, I was gonna say, I'm a
Yes
yes.
to keep them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a yes on the vote
To
and a
cut.
no for the,
Yeah. So Crystal does not. Sorry, I was doing it, I was opposite. Ashley Lawrence was a no. Bree's a yes. Kyle's a yes. Anthony's a yes.
can we just, are we good, we
Now I
confirm
gotta do
that?
the math. So Crystal, Alex, Jamie, Ashley all voted no to
And
cut
that's
the
to
line.
keep that's to keep the t-shirts in the budget.
Peter, Bree, Kyle, Anthony voted yes to cut the line, right?
Yep.
Okay, let's do a calculator. So that is 439.
I didn't think it would come down to such a heated.
There's a reason why there's 9 of us.
I know.
The motion passes to remove it. It's 466 to 439.
Where there's more of us in Turner, so
No,
each of
it's
us.
actually Green who did it.
No, but each of us count
Oh,
less.
way to go.
Yes, the Green people all count 117, the 4 Turner people all count 115, and the 2 Leeds people count 94.
So the yeses were 466.
People who want to cut the line, that was
You don't even make
466
100.
points. The people who want to eliminate the line were 434 points.
And we
So
know
the
your
motion
stuff is-
passes.
I know.
I'm the,
Okay.
I'm the middle
Got it.
child, us Turner
Okay.
people were the middle child.
So we will remove $1,100 from the
Overall, we're the
budget.
biggest, but each individual, but there's 4 of us compared to 3 of you.
I'm not gonna try to get it. I just feel
To
like-
clarify, the transition uniforms have been removed from the budget, is how that turned out.
Right.
That would go.
Okay, we're not gonna give them a target. Anything else before we go?
That was the only
All right. Oh, sorry. Kyle, did you have a question?
Yeah, we're just actually doing a little side hustle.
Now you know my job.
I know, right?
I think it's all 3 of us.
Is there any way to, that we could vote on, maybe possibly removing the school board stipends? Is that,
No, we're actually at the minimum we can. We can return and get them back, but I think that's something to do with state statute as well.
I actually have no idea.
My understanding of the is, and I'm about to be corrected, but my understanding is we're at one point the lowest, and that's a part of
Oh,
a
did you?
statute, and then we can choose to turn them in.
So
Right.
I have a number of board members that opt not to receive it, but we do have to budget for it. Because we are supposed to pay for your time.
I'd like an increase.
We are
Oh,
probably
yeah,
one of the
shall
cheapest,
be.
we're one of the cheapest boards in the state, I can
Yeah, it
show you.
actually
I
is
just
a
didn't
lot.
realize you
And we're
turned
probably
it
the
in.
cheapest board in 3 towns as well. Most of
You-
your all of them as well.
So the law is compensation for attendance at a school board meeting shall be between $10 and $25 a meeting.
That's why I joined.
There you go.
I read.
Learn something new every day. I did not know by law that you guys needed to get paid $10 a meeting.
but do you actually have to like,
It's just shall.
We're the lowest.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
it's a need.
So we have board members that opt to not receive it, but you really are supposed to receive it and
But I have to
then
pay it
give it back.
Right, right.
I'd be willing to give up mine.
That's between you and the, that's
Right.
between you and Gabby.
We'll put it in the fund balance.
No, I
You
mean,
don't
and
have
throw
to
it
give
into
that,
the
but
t-shirt.
No,
you
that's
don't
a whole
want to receive
different
it, you give it
conversation.
back. You're
Yeah.
supposed to take it.
You can fundraise
It gets
and
taxed.
you
Yeah,
can
it could be a
purchase the
donation
t-shirts.
for that purpose. Like, we accept donations all the time, so.
If you wish, if you and Alex wish to purchase the t-shirts,
We have logo.
put a little logo up there with the golf course on them at the same time or something. The Highland sponsored t-shirt for the bus
But the two of
drivers.
them together can't even pay for the t-shirts.
It has to go through the advertising.
One's
Oh, that's
tax.
true. I'm not sure if
God.
they'd have the, would Highlands make the
Yes.
advertising?
Yes.
Yeah,
requirement?
we have an
It'd be
advertising
small,
policy.
rather than
Thank
this
you for
one.
that.
So,
We spent 2 years
anything
on it.
else?
Yes.
Any other
Yes.
questions? This would be the time if you have any other initial questions on the budget. Nooks, crannies, things, okay. That being said, I will look to the public. Does anybody in the audience wish to discuss budget with us? Speak on behalf of the budget? All right, hold on, since I have somebody. I got the glasses on. All right. Our board meetings are conducted for the purpose of carrying out the official business of our schools. It is important to note that meetings of the board are open to the public. However, they are not public forums. At each full meeting of the board, time is allocated to provide opportunities for citizens and employees to express opinions and concerns related to the matters under consideration by the board. These comments shall be within the guidelines set forth in Board Policy BEDH, Public Participation at Board Meetings. Copies of the policy are available here and on the district website. If anybody has further questions, I can read more, but I think we all have a pretty good idea how it goes from there. So, sorry, yes, please. And please stand, say what town you're from and your name.
So is it okay if it's like a minute
No, absolutely, but state the town you're from and your name officially.
Okay. Crystal Nicholas from Green.
Thank you.
So I understand there was money for a world language teacher. I don't know exactly what that means. Is Latin considered a world language or an ancient language? Latin may erroneously be called a dead language, but it is ubiquitous, popping up in science, art, legal terminology, peppered throughout our world on Federal Reserve notes, building inscriptions, and legal contracts. I know of a few students, not my own, going into professional careers that would like to take a Latin class here and would with alacrity if it were offered. Not only is Latin an asset to these particular students, but it would be useful to so many more. My son had only 2 years of Latin here before the program ended, and he's able to not only decipher Latin phrases, it's very useful, and also decode words he's not encountered, helping his vocabulary. The Maine Classical Association is a group of Latin teachers, as well as Latin teaching-based professionals in Maine. Certainly, we could inquire if there were a Latin teacher available, if there's a world language teacher position open. Latin would give our kids a boost in the world, teaching them the skills they would need, they would use every time they looked at a legal agreement or heard medical jargon, freeing our kids from the disaster of relying on experts. Please consider honoring Levitt's strong tradition of Latin and restoring its place in our school's legacy. Thanks.
Thank you. Does anybody have anything else that they would like to ask or comment on the budget? Thank you. I guess with that, I'm going to look at the board one last time. Does anybody else have any other questions before we move to our regular?
So are we gonna do like a quick,
Yes.
okay,
No,
before on the
yeah,
budget?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Oh, yeah. So that gives you a hint. As of right now, we are looking at a 6.79% budget in the schools, an 8% budget to the town of Turner, a 7.9 to the town of Turner, 7.78 for Leeds, and a 6.88 for Green. Green wins again. So that's where we currently stand, with no changes from the state, no changes from the feds, and no changes from insurance. Those are all issues we'll deal with when the time comes. At this point, we'll go around the table. We'll start with Kyle this time. The administration would like to know how you feel about that current standing, if we feel we should be looking to make it a little bit smaller, if you feel if we should make it bigger, if we should be adding stuff in. So, yes.
I think everybody worked hard at getting it down to it, because I'm assuming there's a lot of schools that, that, especially in Southern Maine, have seen a lot of more increase, and I feel like between the Carrie staff has put a great effort in really whittling it down. I think this is a great start to propose to the town. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Alex?
I'm comfortable. I think we did a good job of absorbing the unavoidable stuff in special ed and facilities. I'm nervous about the health insurance bit. I know mine at the golf course went up 14, and we have income, so hopefully that's not the case. But as far as the other stuff, we accomplished the goal of getting the town obligation to a number we all, I think, are comfortable.
Jenny?
Yeah, same. I mean, I wish that we didn't have to make cuts that we had to make. I'm glad that we were able to find room to bring back that guidance position, so that's one less cut. When I looked at the list that you provided, and noted that the filled positions were available to apply for other jobs, so it doesn't seem like there's going to be a loss of personnel, like our townspeople, our community people losing a job, and that made me feel more comfortable. So thank you for providing that
I'm
list.
glad you asked, because I had it all up here, but you're right, I hadn't put it all in one place. So it was
Yeah.
it was a helpful exercise for me to do as well.
Yeah. So I honestly think that anything below 8% is a miracle at this point, and you guys crunched numbers, and there was nickeling and diming going on in this budget because there just isn't any meat to cut, and I think we cut too much personally, but I don't think that anything above 8 would have passed. So I think that the town should be really happy with this budget.
I agree with Jamie.
Thank you, Cole. I guess I'll speak at this point. I myself am not I realize that I will say the administration has done an excellent job to get us to this point. Do I feel we potentially could make a few harder cuts and get lower? Absolutely. And not seriously affect direct student involvement. I do feel it is possible, and I'm afraid we might have to be doing it depending upon what comes out of the 3 options floating out there. Hopefully we do not. The towns are going to be happy that it's less than it was, but they're not going to be happy with this either. Don't forget the towns are taking a hit this year as well, supposedly from revenue sharing. They're going to be taking a hit on top of this. So there will be some overall tax increases all across the board, and this is going to hurt. I myself am not going to guarantee that I'm going to support it at at this point, but I don't foresee us making any further cuts right this minute. So, Crystal?
I am comfortable where we are. I am nervous about insurance, and I think that will absolutely impact our students directly, more so than we kind of already have, and I'm very nervous about that. But I guess we just keep our fingers crossed that we don't have to cross that bridge. I'm hopeful. I hope that people understand how much work has gone into the cuts that have already been made. And sitting here and going line by line and really just trying to find the places that we can to make it palatable. No one likes to see their taxes go up ever, but somehow they always seem to, no matter what. So that's it. I'm good with it.
Yeah, I'm always happy to see it going down a little bit more each week because I know our townspeople are asking for it to get a little bit lower for their tax increase. Same thing that Crystal has shared, the insurance unknowns are scary. However, with that being said, that if we have to come back to the table and cross some more things off that certain schools might be requesting, I'm okay doing that in the future. I don't want to pull them out right now. If the kids can have those water bottle filling stations, we'll let them have their water bottle filling stations. But that does not affect their education. So if we need to cut that from the budget this year, that doesn't mean maybe next year that couldn't come in. But I'm trying to be very conscientious about where the spending is going and the biggest needs and what's best for the students' education, that they have safe buildings and safe buses and teachers and staff available to them. So I'm happy with where it is, but I'm ready to do more work if that's what insurance tells us we have to do later. But I'm fingers crossed, hopeful that we get it all, like Christmas, we can get everything on our wish list.
Thank you, Ashley.
Kind of echo really what's been said. I'm glad it's at a more palatable percent increase to the locals. I still think some will find it high, particularly those that aren't, that just really go out to vote for the budget and they're just looking at the total and they're not really looking at much more than that. But I do agree. I think there will be, if insurance comes back higher than we're anticipating, I think there is room for that. That won't have too big of an impact, but we'll see. I feel confident saying this is the final budget year.
Thank you, Ashley. Anthony, final word.
I think I'm more or less in the same camp as Peter. I think we've done a lot of cutting. I appreciate that the administration and her staff has put in a great deal of time and effort to get things to where they are. If I were to imagine this as a home budget, you know, I kind of think that maybe we're down to looking at how much we're spending on groceries and where can we cut. And I think that there's still some area where we could, you know, take the potato chips out of the budget. You know, you can raise children and have them grow on very simple food, and they'll be healthy, and you've met their requirements. And I think maybe there's some places that we could still trim. So as hard as it has been to get to where we are, I think we might be able to get a little bit lower.
You comfortable with that? All right. Thank you all. This was the first part of our meeting tonight, the budget review. Honestly, a workshop, I guess, what was the official calling of it, whatever. So at this point, I forget, are we jumping straight into?
Yep, so just a reminder that the next meeting and the next time we're going to talk about the budget is April 10th. In
which-
our schedule, it says 13th if needed, but since we won't have insurance numbers till the 10th, there's really no reason to meet on the 13th, on the 3rd.
I was going to say the
Sorry,
3rd.
what did I say, the 13th?
You did, yeah.
I said the 3rd.
We might have to meet on the 13th if all hell breaks loose.
Oh, jeez, no. Yeah, no. So it will be, so
Sunday,
the next
Monday, or
meeting. Yeah, so the next meeting is the 10th.
So to clarify for anybody that's watching, for anybody who's care, we will not be meeting next week at all day. We're actually taking a week off.
Wow, what will I do?
I know.
You can still go to the school, I'm sure, if you'd like.
I'm gonna rewatch videos because I miss you guys.
Oh, okay, that's true. If next Thursday you want to, we are available there to watch on the website. All right. That being said, welcome to our regular meeting at this point. Kyle, you want to say it again?
No.
Okay, just checking. We are going to now act on the minutes of the 13th regular meeting for March 12th. Does anybody have any questions, suggestions, or issues with those? Seeing none, we'll accept unanimous consent. We are now acting on the meetings of the second budget workshop for March 20th. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, or issues with those? Seeing none, we will accept those by unanimous consent. We will now jump to the report of the board chair. Okay, that was good. All I'm going to say is thank you guys for coming. It's actually nice to see a lot of people in the audience. Normally we have between 2 and 5, so this is quite a turnout. It's like Woodstock, so I'm quite impressed. Might not know why, or it might be bad, but anyways. All right, so at this point we're going to public comment. There's been nobody new since I spoke on the previous public comment statement, so I'm not going to repeat it. Would anybody like to speak public comment in general to the board at this time? This can be for any issue regarding the schools. Yes, sir. Please speak your name and the town you're from, please.
Hi, I'm Tom Petrella from Turner. I'm here with my wife Whitney, along with several other families from Turner. We are here today because we have children who attend daycare just outside of Turner, who need or will soon need transportation to the Turner School District. When my wife and I moved to Turner from Wilton in 2022, we had a 1-year-old and another on the way. For over a year, we continued driving to our old daycare at East J while trying to secure a spot closer to home. However, we soon realized how difficult that would be. Many Turner daycares had wait lists that were over a year long, and several would not even accept our names because of this. Eventually, my family, as well as everybody else here with me, was able to get into Bright Ideas in Livermore, which is a half-mile over the Turner town line. This was a huge relief to us working parents. However, we now face a new challenge because the current Turner bus route does not go beyond the town lines to Bright Ideas. Every family here today has shared our struggle of finding daycare in Turner. There's a severe lack of availability, especially for families with multiple children or newborns. Currently, there are 9 state licensed childcare facilities in Turner, and as of this week, only 2 had openings, and even those were severely limited. As working parents and taxpayers, it's simply not feasible for us to drop off and pick up our children every day, and moving them into a Turner daycare is not possible because the openings do not exist. We understand that exceptions to bus routes in the past have been very rare. However, given the current childcare shortages and clear need within the community, we urge the board to make an exception to support the working families who depend on this transportation. We are here representing just one daycare, but we can assume the issue extends beyond our group. Within just 1 mile of the current bus routes, there's 3 other daycares with families that could be in the same situation. We ask the school board and the transportation committee to consider policy that allows for bus transportation to daycares located just outside the town lines, such as Bright Ideas, which is just a half mile out of the current bus route. This small change would make a significant difference for the working families in Turner. We appreciate your time and your consideration and willingness to support the families in Turner. My wife and I, we did call Jim, the transportation director, spoke with him several times. He asked us to compile some information to give to the board, or specifically he mentioned Carrie. Yes,
Gabby.
and Gabby. So I do have that information, which I can pass out to either you specifically, or if everybody wants it, I can pass it around. Okay. I'll just take 3 around there, and then
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I don't have any issue with
What
that.
is the, you may have said it and I missed it, the timeline this is gonna impact you guys or other families? Is this like something that's gonna impact
So
you?
there's definitely, several families that would immediately use the bus routes. And then there's other families that have infants there that would use it in a couple of years or next year, but there's definitely families that have children that would use the bus route.
Gabby, do you have a copy?
For Bright Ideas, the bus turns around within eyesight. It's not even a half-mile turnaround. I included other daycares that are close as well, as Jim requested. I don't know.
I'm going to have to actually ask, thank you so
Yeah.
much, I do
Yeah,
have to
you're
follow
welcome. Thank you.
a guideline, unless that guideline can change if there is a question for me. We already have one, was there any other questions for him? All right, anybody else? I just want you to know you've been heard,
Yeah.
and I do appreciate, thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments? Yes, please.
So, Crystal Nicholas from Green. I'm concerned about what I've heard in the curriculum committee regarding a new math curriculum of astonishing price. I'm left with so many questions. Most obviously, whatever happened to Everyday Math? Did our district not embrace this program however many years ago? As scores continue their downward trajectory, where was all the promised success? We are a data-driven body. Where is all the data on this program over the past quarter century, and why did it fail? It is beyond ironic that a professional learning institution of experts with a budget of millions is bereft of answers. And the parents, more importantly the children, who have been ill-served by this agenda, where are they now? These are the kids who struggle to make change or who don't understand fractions. The stakeholders were beggared for that outcome. These children's parents were likely marginalized if they complained. I can hear it now, a small group of parents who didn't support the schools. Those who were lucky accessed outside math tutoring for their child. I discovered that there's even a Facebook page for these folks, Parents Against Everyday Math. Not all parents have access to literature breaking down why everyday math was a series of red flags. And when I heard a request for information on why this curriculum did not work, I heard that teachers might not have been able to implement it consistently. And to purchase the new math, will this be just good taxpayer money sown after bad? Do we trust the process in place to choose a math curriculum? Where is the accountability? There's a district of parents and grandparents to whom you owe an explanation as to why decades of math curriculum failed. An explanation would begin to repair community trust so that we can move forward confident that there is at least a chance that the students will be properly served.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Please, name and town you're from, please.
Michael Belluzzi, Turner, Maine. I would like to second what Tom was saying. We have a 4-year-old and bright ideas as well. And we registered him to start pre-K in Turner, not realizing that we were half mile over the line. We also have a 1.5-year-old daughter who also goes to Bright Ideas. We would also like to get into the pre-K program. I teach 2nd grade in Lewiston at Connors Elementary as well, so I understand that, you know, district and busing guidelines, but I was hoping that as well, that the fact that it is an eyesight, that it could be a possibility. I understand though, as you guys were talking about the budget, that it might not be in it, but I was hoping as a member of the community, a taxpayer, and also a school teacher as well, that it could possibly be an exception made. So I just wanted to send Tom's.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
So, my name's Justin Gray.
Oh, Justin.
I'm in Turner. My daughter turned 1, actually turned 1 tomorrow, sorry. And
Happy
she
birthday.
goes,
Yes.
yeah,
Don't forget that.
She goes to Bright Ideas as well. It's our first child. We're going to have a few more. And yeah, as mentioned, I don't know what to do in a few years if we have to choose a new daycare. Entrusting somebody with my age was really difficult, and we trust them. So that's a big deal. And as they say, it's like eyesight. We gotta get out of here, but appreciate your time. And I hope you make that work for us.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good day. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to add to tonight's meeting? Come on, Jimmy.
Jimmy Childs, Leeds. You know, I drive to work in Augusta, Lewiston, everywhere. I see the MSAD52 vans coming from all directions. I have no problem supporting these people and getting their kids just a little bit down the road. I mean, our vans are everywhere, right? It's just money. You know, I do. So I've made this point in the past about the opt-outs. The opt-outs can, you know, where do we draw the line? Is the opt-out line crossed if a teacher administrates like hands the survey to the child that was opted out? Is the opt-out line crossed if the child is looking upon another student who isn't opted out computer screen of where he's opted out? Is the opt-out line crossed when the students therefore talk about everything that was in the survey to the kid that was opted out? You know, I mean, I know it's just a survey. The high school survey is very disturbing, the things that they ask, the sexual questions to these children that are ours. You know, but I guess if it's supportive, then fine. But my bigger concern is the opt-out for the books. The books that we have talked about, the books that have sex acts and lewd language that I wouldn't even be able to read from here. The meetings have been shut down because of those. If I was to read from those books, you guys would stop me dead in my tracks, but our kids can go in these libraries and pick these books up. So my children that are opted out and other children, where does the opt-out line cross? Does it cross only if the librarian hands the book over to the opted-out kid? Or does it cross if the kid picks it up from somebody else that has it, or it's left on a bus, or they talk about it as kids do? I feel very strongly about this when my son is going to 7th grade next year, where he can go in and pick up these books that have things that we do not agree with at all, that actually should not even be in a school, and I think is beyond you guys' purview to even allow here. But seeing that it is, I mean, it's just something, can we figure this out at some point? Maybe get back to me on where that line's drawn. I mean, I could email you, but emailing by me doesn't get me very far. So I just would like maybe, you know, a little bit of movement on this. I know that I'm not the only person in this district that cares a lot about the things that a minor child whose brain isn't even developed until he's in his mid-20s, you know, can handle. Adult things for adult times, you know, conversations, things adults want to do, fine. They can do what they want. They have free will and liberty to do so. These children are minors, they're children, they are susceptible to, you know, things that they shouldn't be seen, so, you know, anything on that, I would love to have come my way. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Anybody have any questions? Okay. Last calls. Anybody else want to speak? No. Seeing none, thank you guys again for coming. That was public comment. We've now moved to communications. The board chair, to his knowledge, has no communications to bring forward. So that will turn to the superintendent for communications, please.
I have some. Following resignations, Megan Fenton, math teacher at Triton Middle School, effective at the end of the year. Jacob Luce, special education teacher at the middle school, effective April 18th. Danny Gay, teacher at Leeds Central School, effective at the end of the year. And Chelsea Davies, school nurse at Turner Elementary School, effective at the end of the year. We have a new special ed administrative secretary for Turner Elementary and Turner Primary, Michelle Anderson. And we have a new special ed tech 2, Jake Terrio, at the middle school. And we have brought on one additional sub district-wide and one sub at Leeds Central School. That's what I got.
Any questions? Adjustments to the agenda, do we have any?
Nope.
That takes us to the committee reports. So, Ms. Ashley,
Yes.
first with Finance Committee.
Yeah, Finance did meet tonight. Gabby presented us with 2 different companies that they're looking at in admin for a new software update for their financial program. They're not looking to bring this to board for a vote or something, a consent agenda. They're just going through, looking at 2 options, pricing and what each company has to offer, and whether or not, and it looks like it is going to fit within that reserve account of $100,000 that is being set aside. And once I think Gabby said they had a couple more meetings to do and get more information, then we'll bring it to the board either as a consent agenda item or have Gabby present that. And then we went over the fuel bids, which we also discussed at the last meeting, and they did Gabby selected the lowest bid, went with Rinaldi. And Gabby showed us some preliminary electricity costs that she's looking at. So she's just pulling rates right now. Our rates don't expire until October, so they're not looking to lock into anything yet. I'm not sure when we would be looking to lock into one.
May would be great.
May. So she'll continue to pull those in the future and see where the rates are. Right now, there's going to be a slight increase if they stay where they're at right now. And then Gabby gave us an update on the new finance coordinator and payroll specialist position that they hired, and that's been a great fit for them and a lot of value added to the office, which is great.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for Ashley? Seeing none. Kyle, Plant Transportation.
We met yesterday morning to review the reserve fund allocations between the Leeds Central roof, high school elevator, and possibly reallocate our performance funds for the TPS water upgrade, or is that already, did we already do that?
We haven't done the TPS water yet.
So we discussed it anyway.
Yeah.
We'll be looking more into applying for revolving renovation funds for the high school roof for next year. That'll be still in the infancy stages there. We end up putting out the bid. We got 3 bids. Or did you get 3 bids? Or just 2?
For the roof?
Yeah, for the roof.
We did get 3. Only 2 of them were apples to apples, though.
Correct. Which was IRC and Handel Brothers. IRC came in at $387,840. Handel Brothers came in at $365,440. But they had to add allowances for in case they found roof rot or damaged sub roof. IRC carried a $7,000 allowance, and Handel Brothers had a $10,000 allowance, which brought them within 20 grand. Which was a difference of $19,400 to be exact. We reviewed both bids. We found that IRC has a there was a better timeline, which would be this summer. That's the goal, to try to get this done, since it's really needed. Handel Brothers wouldn't be able to touch it till the following year, even though they were a lower bid. Our recommendation is to go with IRC for this year coming up. We also talked about the high school elevator, which is 20 years old. Currently, it's been breaking down more often. They're looking to get this upgraded. We reviewed 3 bids there: Casco Bay Elevator, Stanley, and TKE. The Casco Bay elevator bid was the lowest at $87,667. Stanley was $110,700, and TKE was $106,387.10. The committee recommends going with Casco Bay. They're a little bit smaller companies. Seem like they're going to be more apt to jump on it sooner. That's it. Unless I forget
Kelly
something.
wants to add something.
Can I just add something?
Yes, you can.
Thank you, Kyle. You had mentioned that Handel Brothers 365 440 quote included $10,000 for replacement of decking for tire materials, and that's not actually true. EEI wanted to add an additional $10,000 and then bring them up to
Gotcha.
375. So that's bridging the gap further. In addition, Handel Brothers, with the increased timeline, it wouldn't be able to be fixed until October. We would have to do approximately a $10,000 repair, which would then bring their total amount to 385, making them completely the same price, and IRC can do it.
I stand corrected.
So close, Kyle, so close.
Sorry, Kyle.
That's why you're our right hand man.
She's over your shoulder, just correct that.
I'm making it fine.
Jimmy Cricket.
Great.
Just a clarifying question. On the elevator, is it being repaired or replaced?
Being lots of parts and pieces of being.
I mean, I'm just trying to wrap my
So
head
the
around.
car is going to stay the same, the pulleys, but it's more of a modernization, which is basically the computer chip. All the panels, controls are going to be updated. The pump, all of the components are going to be new.
Okay.
But the cab is going to stay the same, the pulleys, but all of the components within are going to be new.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I can picture that.
To clarify, I think you mentioned on the shirt, is that a project's going to be done this summer?
Correct. Yes.
That as well. Or soon, when the road, I'm sure. That's still operating, right? Just can't be repaired again? Is that correct? Or is it not operating?
It's operating, yes.
Yeah.
But it occasionally stops operating, and that has actually raised some safety concerns several times, where you described like the company has to come and reset it, so it's not working for a period of time.
Yeah, it only gets, with the older it gets, it makes so many trips up and down, and then eventually shuts off for safety.
It happens to all of
I
us.
was just saying.
The company has to come and actually use their magic key to turn it on. It's just a lot more often now than,
Magic key.
I was going to say,
yeah.
did you just snag the key, man?
I try.
These, okay, I was going to keep going, I was going to say, but remember these questions are part of the consent agenda, so if you have any questions on the consent agenda, this is the time to ask them.
Yes.
Please.
Just one more other comment about the elevator. There was actually one of the students actually couldn't use the elevator and needed to, and actually had a pretty bad fall on the stairs. So just to give you an idea, it's the need for it.
Thank you. Anthony?
So the IRC proposal comes with it's a 20-year warranty on the new Leeds roof for materials and such. Is there, the roof that's on there is not old. Is there any, there's no...
There's no warranty there. It was a repair, it wasn't done well, there's no warranty there.
Thank you.
I should know this, but I don't. Is this the whole roof or a portion of the roof?
This is section A, so it's more of the 106 side. That's what
Closest
it's
to the
listed
road.
as,
So
section A.
the old building.
Yeah, exactly.
Does anybody have any other questions? Again, this is
The other
consent
part of the
agenda.
roof was repaired by IRC, and it's doing well, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
very well.
Sorry.
Not a problem.
Want to make that point.
So, all right. Anything else, PTP? Thank you, Kyle. Jamie, policy.
Yeah, we did meet tonight. We don't have any policies on the agenda for tonight. At our meeting, we discussed again, cell phone policy, graduation requirements. And so graduation requirements will be coming to you guys. And we made a committee decision to send cell phone policy back to you guys for first reading. It's not going to be on the consent agenda at the next meeting, just so that we could get some feedback. We fully expect it to come back to us for work, but because we only have like 4 meetings before the end of the year, Evan really would like to get this in the student handbook and ready for next year. So we're gonna do a first reading, get feedback from you guys, and then go work on it.
I just wanted to add, Evan was here at the meeting, so he mentioned the handbooks, but the change will impact all students. So it will be all schools if the policy is enacted.
Yep, absolutely. So that will come your way for a first reading and feedback. I was just thinking maybe Teresa, you can email that policy out to the full board so you guys can kind of read through it, since it's going to be a brand new policy, and then kind of get an idea of it before our first reading.
I would assume it would go out in the backup.
No, I would too, but I'm
Right.
just saying we don't have a meeting next week, but so give them a longer time to.
So longer than next Friday to okay.
We'll work on that. I believe I can make some revisions, don't I? We'll work on it. Okay.
Any questions for Jan? Thank you. And what am I missing?
Curriculum.
Thank you. Last but not least is curriculum. 3.
We did not meet tonight, so our next meeting will be on April 10th at 5:30 at Tripp Middle. Later on this evening, we will have some conversation around the math curriculum and our recommendation for the new math curriculum. Teresa will present that.
So questions for that will be then.
Mm-hmm.
You may have any questions for Greg about our lack of, apparently we don't do much of that. Thank you. All right. That being said, that leads us to choral. This year's coming to an end, madame. I said the year's coming to an end.
Oh yes, it is. Too fast. We had a lovely remote day on Monday. Very nice. End of the quarter is tomorrow. Yes. And that means that Monday is the start of the next quarter. Spring sports start next week, and our rehearsals for the spring show have officially begun. What is it?
So do you know what it is?
A somewhat true tale of Robin Hood, May 9th and 10th at 6:30.
There you go. Somewhat.
Somewhat true.
Somewhat true. Thank you very much, Cor.
I have a question for Cor.
Absolutely.
How many days until your graduation? You're not counting down, you should know that number. Fourth quarter has started,
She's
will
already,
start.
okay, she's already there.
already
Senioritis is kicked, she's already graduated, she's just treading water.
Okay, next meeting, okay?
No, probably not.
You don't have the number next time?
No.
All right, that takes us to Teresa, Assistant Superintendent's report.
All right,
Skills.
so I do not have any updates on grants. I know we're all anxiously awaiting that, so I'll just get that news out of the way first of all.
We'll email you as soon as we, how about that? We'll email you
Yeah.
as soon as we know.
In the meantime, I'll just say that we don't know yet, but we will email you. So for professional development, on March 14th, which was our workshop day, we had 2 external consultants working with us. One is, her name is April Von Maxey. She is working with us on reading. She represents the HMH company. She works for them. And then we also had an independent math consultant. She works for the Department of Ed in the Math for Me program, but she also does independent consulting. Her name is Sue Hogan, and she worked with teachers on math. So I felt, from my perspective, I was with the elementary teachers for the day, that it was a productive day. We are always looking for ways to improve, so as usual, we did an exit ticket. I wanted to thank particularly the head cook at Turner Elementary School, Denise Cochran, who prepared a delicious potato bar for those that were there working. And then on March 21st, Kara Vandas, who is the co-author of Clarity for Learning, 5 Essential Practices that Empower Students and Teachers, worked with lead Central School teachers. This is the third Clarity cohort that we've had this year. The first 2 were with teachers at Levitt and Turner Elementary School. And then as Bree mentioned, tonight the math standards will be shared with the full board. It was presented previously to the curriculum committee. And then on Monday, the start of the 4th quarter, I am meeting with the health and PE teachers to finalize their curriculum. And the hope is that this will go to the committee in April or May. Visual and performing arts and health and PE are running neck and neck, so we'll have to see who gets done first. That's all I've got for the report.
Thanks, guys. Anybody have any questions?
So I am not going to report on anything that I did in the last week. You guys have heard my voice a ton. I do have this really cool video that I'm going to show you though. Last year, if you recall, we did a little bit of a report on our LRTC students who get to participate in Skills USA. So they compete and then they go to Bangor, and I don't think Evan's even seen this. I meet not quite monthly with the LRTC Advisory Committee, so Rob Callahan is there, and he shared this video. We had 13 Levitt kids go to Skills USA. We had some medal winners, so I'm going to give you the medal winners, and then we're going to watch. It's like 5 minutes, very well produced. It was a little mind-blowing how cool it was. So we had a gold medal winner, Heather Musso, in EMT, Emergency Medical Technician. She's in year 1. And then we had 3 silver medalists. And I think once you see the video, you'll realize how big a deal it is. Like, I'm not sure I fully understood it. So Lily Merriam, who is in year 1 in Career Pathways Human Services. And then Tessa Blaze, who is year 2 for Criminal Justice Quiz Bowl. She's in the Criminal Justice program. And then we have Asa Hodgkin, who is in year 1 in the plumbing program. So he got a silver medal in the plumbing knowledge test. So I'm going to plug this in so you can watch. Do you 3 want to come over to say?
Yeah.
Right over there.
Like we can't, or I can't TV. Yeah, we really can't see it here.
I don't want to take it away from
Well, I'm just thinking we can push it back. So when I did my presentation.
Yeah, it's very cool stuff.
Thank you, Kyle.
And the sound should be fine. It was all tested before. It's an overnight couple of days.
Appreciate that.
People here. Party on, party people, let me hear some noise. DC's in the house, jump, jump, rejoice. There's a party over here, a party over there. Wave your hands in the air, shake the dairy, yeah. These three words when you get busy and move. There it is, hit me.
The success of each chapter is reliant on the collective efforts of many dedicated school administrators who have unselfishly committed their professional and civic talents in support of our students. The first awardee has transformed their technical center into a beacon of excellence in career and technical education. His leadership style, characterized by compassion, integrity, and competence, has inspired both students and staff. His enthusiasm for Skills USA is truly remarkable. He has made it mandatory for every student to participate in either a technical or leadership competition. With many students competing in multiple events, this initiative has broadened our students' horizons, but also significantly boosted their self-esteem and technical skills. Please join me in bringing to the stage and congratulating our first 2025 Cornerstone Award winner, Mr. Robert Callahan.
Biggest school in the state, so they are overwhelming force, the LRTC. Yeah. This is the part where I was like, holy cow, so cool. These are the kids from the entire state. And LRTC's in there.
Just Maine?
That's Maine, yeah. Kids win, that's the ceremony. This is the medal ceremony.
Still
Yeah, we tried. So I did ask Rod, their fundraising, to send kids to nationals, so I did ask him to share that information, and I'll provide it to folks if they're interested, but it's a whole nother part of the process and program that kids get to be involved with. That's what our big contribution for next year, the 8,000 that we're now contributing, that's sort of what they do. And we actually hired, the technology teacher at TES actually is on the board of Skills USA. She spends a lot of time sort of planning this and getting this going up and running. So I thought it would be fun to watch, and you get a chance to see what kids are doing with the programs that we have.
I will agree, it is a nice break from what we have been doing.
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah. I thought so.
Just like curiosity, national, is that just like the gold and silver?
I
or the
feel it's
golds?
the medal winners, yes, the medal winners go.
Or is- I was
So we've
curious.
got 4.
Cool. Anybody else have any questions about Kyle? All right, good.
So how many kids actually participated from my district?
13.
So it was 13, and we had how many medals?
4 of those 13 won a medal.
Nice. And then as far as funding goes, we're contributing $8,000, but what does that mean, funding? Is it all the schools pooling money to?
So like almost all their funding is state subsidy. That's how the CTE funding works. And then there's some additional cost, and the additional part, it's like the additional local in our budget. So the additional part of their budget that is above their state subsidy is what we now contribute to.
And is that all just seniors?
Nope, year 1 students are juniors, year 2 students are seniors, Evan, right? Mostly. Yeah. Some programs are only 1 year, but a lot of them are 2 years, so it just depends.
Coral,
Can I just say a little something?
of course you can.
I did LHCC last year for early childhood education. It was an awesome program. I had a lot of fun. That's all I want to say.
That's great,
Glad to
thank
hear.
you.
It looked
I know, I've never seen it, I haven't been to Skills USA, I've always heard of it and just was like blown
That's
away.
a party.
Yeah,
Did you say that
very
was Bangor?
professional, it's in Bangor.
Anybody else have any questions, comments?
I do.
Oh, God.
Do we, transportation-wise, is that, we utilize a van or a bus or something to bring
It's a
kids up?
daily bus, yeah, I mean, I think sometimes there's vans involved when we don't have a bus, but yes, every day.
That's it.
Anybody else? Thank you. So, that was the extent? All right. Sure you don't get anything about the budget? You know, shortfalls, anything like that? Just checking.
I'm holding no secret bad news.
All right. That takes us to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is 4 items. We've already talked about them in detail. They are, I can't remember, does he read these out completely? Goody.
He does.
That's good.
It's very
I have glasses, don't you worry.
Keep it official.
Aye, yes. Officialness, that's right where All right, the consent agenda. The below items will be acted upon collectively unless a board member wishes to take one out. Does anybody wish to take one out at this time? All right, now I'll read them, so you guys make your mind. 9.1, consideration and approval of PTV committee recommendation to award the LCS Lead Central School Roof contract to IRC, a cost of $387,840. 9.2, consideration and approval of the PTV recommendation to transfer $387,840 from the facilities reserve account to pay for the Leeds Central School roof replacement. 9.3, consideration and approval of the PTV recommendation to award the high school, Livet Area High School elevator repair contract to Casco Bay Elevator at a cost of $87,667. And Article 9.4, consideration and approval of PTV recommendation to transfer $87,667 from the facilities reserve account to pay for the Levitt Area High School elevator repair. So moved. A second. Any discussion? We can't have discussion.
Who had the second?
Second was Jamie. Right. All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Oh my gosh. First two projects on the reserve account. This is a momentous day. Let's have cake.
All right, so that takes us to old business. 10.1, discussion of a motion made by Brianna Allard, seconded by Peter Ricker to approve the 2025-26 school calendar this was initially made at the March 12th meeting of 2025. So at this time, what was the motion?
It was a motion to approve.
Well, motion to approve.
Yeah.
Really? I motion to approve it? I seconded to approve it?
Yes. No, I think it was a motion to postpone.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't remember motioning to,
I'll go back and look at the minutes.
Oh, yes. Well, that was the initial motion, and then there was a second motion to postpone. So this is the motion.
this is the motion to accept the calendar.
Correct. So we made that motion, got the discussion going, then motion to postpone it.
Okay.
So this is still the motion that's on the table.
So for clarification, the motion on the table, apparently made by Bree, seconded by myself, is to accept the 2025-26 school calendar. And to remind everybody, this is the one that has the significant changes on Wednesdays with the 1 hour early release, which is why it was postponed to this week. So is there any further information from Edmund on the past week?
Yep. I said I would come back with more information to provide you all. I really should have done that the first time, but with the budget, I just did not. So I actually am glad that we ended up postponing it so I could come back and do more. In addition, it was requested that I do additional communication with the community, which I did. I shared that with you. I got 1 or 2 responses in email from people giving feedback on that. I don't know if you all heard from folks, but I did want to provide you a little bit more information about why we're recommending this. So why add the early release? So I looked back, and Teresa and I talked about this, the things that we are asking teachers to do just since I've been here, right? So I arrived July 2022. So what are the things that we're asking teachers to do? It's a little bit small over there now that it's so far away, but I'll read it out loud for you. Thank you. Okay, sorry. So since I've been here, that's all I can speak to. We added in grades 7 through 10, we adopted the BAR model that ensures that every single student in each of those 4 grades is discussed every week, and plans are made to support academic achievement. And those discussions happen with teachers during the school day or in after-school meetings. Last year, the high school, that team of teachers met voluntarily after school without compensation because they believed it was really important. So that's not sustainable long-term. This year, they built it into the Wednesday meetings at a cost to other things. We added, as you know, new reading instruction materials. This year is a huge, heavy lift with a very high learning curve in grades K through 6. Next year, we will be adding math instructional materials, brand new, because, and both of those materials are in response to the student achievement data and students not really recovering in the way we want and hoped from the pandemic. So those are both going in, grades 3 through 8. We'll wait 1 more year to add K to 2 on that. All of our schools had to double down and re-implement PBIS interventions to reduce behavior. We've seen data on that we've had dramatic improvement on behavior, and that's happening in our schools. And especially at the middle school, the elementary schools for the PBIS. So that has been a major increase in the work that they're doing. As part of the work that Teresa and Rebecca have been talking about in terms of increasing our intervention planning, both academic and behavior across all schools, it's been a huge emphasis. to make sure that we're doing that in a way that's thoughtful, requires the use of data, requires the use of our ability to talk about each student as each week. I have reported a lot of changes and increases in emergency and safety planning. Each of our schools is losing PD time to do the reunification walkthroughs. It's non-negotiable, we have to do it. But if we want schools to continue to emphasize the safety plans and review them, we have to make sure that we give that time, because that is something that I am emphasizing with principals and requiring them to do. We are moving each year to be more and more data-based in terms of our decision-making. That's not only true here at the board level, but also true at school level. The data we collect and provide as part of the strategic plan is the data that principals are using to make changes within their building. And as you're going to see tonight, curriculum writing, that is a huge undertaking, but it's not so much that we have the curriculum in place. Now we actually have to everybody to do it. And I think, Peter, you're somebody who does a good job of reminding us always to make sure that when kids are in first grade in Turner and first grade in Green and first grade in Leeds, that they all get the same thing, right? And they all should be getting that same thing. But that can't happen just because we say it, right? We can give all the teachers this piece of paper, but if we don't give them time to learn it and process it and talk about it and plan it, it's really difficult to be held accountable. And then the last thing that we're in process on is building those common assessments and using those common assessments so that we're not relying on a state test that may change on a year-to-year basis and won't give us a good sense of what we're seeing within there. So that was just a list I made, like, sort of like, wait, I think we're doing this, I think we're doing this. And then when I showed it to Teresa, she was like, whoa, it's a lot. We have raised expectations without questions, raised them of our principals, raised them of our teachers. We needed to, no question. But we have to then also make sure that we're providing the support system to help them be successful in those raised expectations. So we did add 2 workshop days in the teacher negotiations. Jamie's the last one standing who was a part of those, so sayonara, babe. Whoever's with me next time, it's a party, you want to join. Judith won't be there either. It'll just be me with any memory of what's happened. So we did add those 2 days, and we put them in August, which this year was a huge benefit in terms of getting teachers preliminary up to speed on the reading stuff. But then there's one thing to sort of theoretically understand what you're supposed to do, but when the rubber hits the road and you actually have to do it, you need a lot of support in that. So no other time has been added. This is what teachers have for time. So they have weekly PLC meetings. That is like at the elementary level, it happens during one of their prep times. They're 40 minutes, but 40 minutes, everybody needs to go to the bathroom, so realistically it may not be 40 minutes. Assuming it does not get removed because we don't have a sub for a specialist. So classroom teachers get their prep time when the kids go to PE or when they go to art. And so if the art teacher's not out and we don't have a sub, then teachers don't get that time. So that's when that happens. At the high school and the middle school, they do also build a schedule to provide some groups of teachers time, not all groups though. I'm looking at Evan to just verify that. In the contract, by contract, we can have 27 staff meetings a year. That works out to about three times a year. They're about an hour. So they happen either before school at the elementary level, 3 times a month. What did I say?
A year.
Oh my gosh, 3 times a month, sorry. They happen either before school or after school. We have 5 half days that are for professional development. We have more half days than that, but 2 of them are comp days for student-led conferences, and 2 of them are for student-led conferences. So that's part of the half days. So the half days that are just for professional development are those 5. That's the 2.5 days I said for conferences. And then we have some money in title funds that we've spent for summer work, but we are not counting on that money. We do not think. And just a reminder, we did put $10,000 into the budget to help with writing curriculum for English language arts to help sort of account for that potential loss in funding. It's too important that if we don't have some time in the summer for teachers to do work, we won't. English is the biggest one, right? It's the most, like, if kids can't read, they can't do math, they can't do anything else. So it is the biggest curriculum that we need to do, and if we don't spend some time in the summer, the chances of having done next year are going to be difficult. So that's the time that we allot to teachers. So this is what this calendar would do for the early release. So it would be every Wednesday. Students would get out 1 hour early, so that would look different at the elementary level versus the middle school and the high school, but whatever time the school day ends, it's 1 hour shorter. The 5 half days that are currently in the calendar for professional development would be eliminated. We do have 2 half days in there for student-led conferences. So that half day there's one in November and there's one in March, and that is for the conferences. It would be canceled if we had a delayed start on that day. Some districts have early release days on Wednesdays, and if we have a half day on a Wednesday and a delayed start, what happens in other districts and would likely happen for us is we would just have to cancel the day. Like we don't have a mechanism to sort of deal with, if it's a half day and a 2-hour delay, there's just no way to have school. If it's only 1 hour, it's a lot easier to sort of like respond to that. So if it were a storm day, and we were going to start the day late, rather than just say, we're going to start 2 hours late and then take an hour off and then everyone's in school for like an hour and a half, we would just not have an early release day that day. We would have the 2-hour delay so that we have school and don't get into that position. Wednesday school schedules would be created to avoid impact student learning time. So at the high school and the middle school already for those early release days, they just shorten every block. And so right now on a half day, the high school schedule, those classes are about 39 minutes when we have a half day. They would go to a full hour. And as somebody who has taught in both of those schedules, you can do a lot in an hour. A 39-minute class is difficult to make progress in, especially when kids are used to 78, right? A full hour. The elementary schools, I didn't realize this until today, so I will say that I learned something new. When we have a half day, everything that is in the afternoon just gets canceled. So they're not preserving academic time if that happens. Like when we have those half days, the afternoon gets canceled. So in this scenario, they wouldn't have to do that. We would be able to plan ahead and make sure that that Wednesday schedule provides for that content delivery that has to happen, so it's not just canceled. And the middle school actually won't even shorten their blocks. I just realized they have their crew block, which is advisory, and a flex block. They would just cancel that so that all the class periods are preserved in terms of the time. It's not quite as simple to do that at high school. So in talking to all the elementary principals, they all can imagine a scenario in which they will be able to preserve a significant amount of academic time, definitely more than what they're able to preserve now in those half days. And then I did, let me just make sure, here's a potential. Now, what I did was I met with each school, again, you can't read that, I'll give you some examples. I met with each school's leadership team, so which is anywhere from, I actually had quite a few join that just wanted to participate in the conversation, but in each school I probably had between 6 and 10 teachers with the principal sort of asking them to think about what they would do with this time. What would this additional hour that is routine versus the once a month? The routine is what I think makes the difference here versus a once a month half day. So that routine every week that you can count on. This is middle school. They're talking about, being able to do their bar meetings, which is when they would talk about their level 1 students, level 2 students. You hear Jana talk about that when she gives her data, those kids that need extra plans. They would be able to have extended content team meetings, reviewing common assessment data, something that they struggle to do right now. This one came from Leeds. They're very similar, but at Leeds they talked about like the first week in a month using data to make decisions for interventions. Week 2, they would make plans for those RTI and win time, which is intervention time, making sure that you're using that data, and then planning, actually literally talking about which kids need to do what and then what they're going to do with them. Week 3 might be professional development, so they might tackle a topic that's from their new reading or math curriculum, and then week 4 would be PLC work. So the teachers, as I said, they get that meeting time during the day, but all of them say their agendas are longer than they have time to deal with, and regularly don't have conversations that they continue. Let me see if I had another. This one's from Turner Elementary School. Again, it's too small, but it's very similar. So they still have their staff meeting, and then what they are able to do in addition to that staff meeting is content work, common assessment planning, looking at data, classroom training. I think what this schedule did a really good job was Kristen talking about the specific training she would provide ed techs. Right now, if we want to train ed techs beyond the 3 workshop days that we budget them for, we have to pay them. It costs us money because they leave at the end of the day. They're hourly. So this is within their workday, working with the teachers and getting similar training right now is very hard for us to do. Thank you, Laura. It's almost impossible to do without spending more money. So our goal is to minimize the reduction of instructional time at the elementary level. 39 minutes. I forgot that I put this in there. Let's see, middle school, other considerations. All right, so I've had Jason Breton is our database manager. I had him pull, like, what does attendance look like on the day before a half day and the day of? So we typically lose about 5% more kids don't come to school on a half day. So like, we already have people sort of saying, no, it's only half day, we don't need to be here. So I think we've had such an emphasis on absences, I'd like to see if we can eliminate that drop that comes. Again, middle school, the elementary people miss their instruction on the half days because they just cancel those. We do need to, regardless of whether or not we do this or we do return to our half days, we are tied to LRTC more than in the past. The superintendents did agree to try and keep their calendars more common than they are now. Right now, if Lewiston has a half day on a Wednesday and we have a half day on a Thursday and Auburn has an early release, and then the instructors can't plan for how to get kids enough hours in all of their programs. Multiple schools already do early release, so this would align us with them. And then Auburn and Lewiston have aligned their half-day schedule to help with that. So we do need to account for that.
Auburn had early release.
Auburn has early release at the elementary level.
Okay, no,
They
at the high
don't
school.
have it for the high school. So they have a
Okay.
regular Wednesday early release
But
and
just-
half days at the high school and middle school. Yeah,
I'm surprised they have it separated.
I know. Most effective way to deliver PD without additional time, hours, and pay. I think that's all I got.
Anybody have any questions for Todd?
The remote learning days, let's see if I can note on the top of it, is that, because I remember like during COVID that popped up, is that a state, is that a policy?
This is, it's what we put on our calendar. We don't have a policy around it. It is an option that we put on the calendar to be used. You have some feedback? You can join.
I have a lot of range of children, and I just know with work and parents and stuff like that, I find it's very difficult, especially the younger kids, to be able to do it. And sometimes I wonder how much. I mean, we have a half day and we see a 5% drop. Like, what is the droppage of going remote days? Because I know that we've started pulling our kids from actually doing it because it's, you know, kindergarten especially, just, you know, there's not really much production there, so I don't know how much use it actually happens.
So I get a range of feedback, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
I don't know, principals, if you guys get much. I don't get as much as you'd think I would get. But I think it's safe to say that it's not, I mean, I don't think it's anything that anybody prefers, but to have it as an option. Certainly this year when we lost water at the high school and the middle school for 2 days, it was really helpful to have that. But we've only used it twice this year, and I think that's for a reason. Like, I know it's not ideal. So I think we will always look at what those plans look like, and if the board does not want to have that as an option, that is okay. Not having it as an option does sometimes back us into a corner about what we can do, what the options are, but yeah. So that's nothing changes about that with this calendar.
Right, yeah. I mean, I think it'd be something that we could actually, it'd be nice to kind of actually bring it up, because I do have, you know, other parents that have complained about it, and they, so it'd be something that'd be nice to put on an agenda at some point.
Yep.
James?
I have 2 things. One, remote learning days feel really painful when they're happening and you're the parent at home. But I think sending my child to school in late June is way more. I just want to say that.
That's, I mean, there's pain either way. We don't.
No, we're ready to be the beach then. And then, so I don't know if anyone else felt this way, but I felt like in terms of feedback that we were getting, I was getting feedback from teachers that taught academic classes and like high school teachers, middle school teachers, that they felt like this was a great option and they were in support of the calendar. But then I felt like the specials maybe felt like they didn't have enough time. And I just didn't know if you had received that same feedback. So like music, PE, like
Yeah, so none of the principals have actually, and principals don't really set that schedule independently. There's the leadership team, and that's why I met with leadership teams and not just asked the principals for their feedback. They're really the ones who are gonna set that schedule, right? And make sure that things are in place. I think some of the feedback that came around music seemed to be twofold. It seemed to be needing to cover in other schools, which has nothing to do with this, right? We did have to look at the teaching load of our music teachers at the elementary schools, and we did have to make adjustments when we realized that the teaching load was there was a lot of inequities. And so it did require us to make some changes because some people, their load was significantly higher than others. I don't know that specialists are gonna lose time. Like, I don't know that, right? Yeah, I can't speak to that because the schedules haven't been made.
So you haven't gotten like any, like.
You shared that feedback with me, that's what I've heard.
Okay.
In that same vein, hearing that previously they cut whatever was going on in the afternoon meant that all of those specials at the elementary level were not happening anyway. So I think this is a bonus because you're getting back your whole afternoon and working a schedule around so that it, again, I can't speak for every single teacher in every building across the district, but if you work the schedule in such a way that they can have some time, maybe it's not 70 minutes, but it's 60 minutes, but that's still pretty significant to nothing. I'm learning that for the first time tonight too, and that's shocking that they would just do whatever they could do in the morning and then everything in the afternoon always got cut. That means that those specials would often lose teaching time no matter what. So I feel they're gaining it back with this calendar.
Ashley?
I feel better with the information about it that you gave. I felt, to be honest, I thought this was already decided on by the prior board members. Like it had been talked about all year. I didn't realize until I saw on the agenda that I had to put responsibility behind my vote. So I was a little surprised, felt uninformed. So taking away from math and English, so when your bullet point was that's not going to happen. So those are still going to stay full class loads. So the regular instruction is going to stay.
The goal would be to preserve that time. I mean, I'm not going to promise you right this minute that they won't lose 5 minutes or whatever, but we are all on the same page that reading and math are the priorities.
What?
Last meeting there was talk, I think you were just kind of summing up the hours based on the half days versus this. And it was intimated that it resulted in 12 hours of the kids not being in schools.
No, I think it resulted in 12 more hours of PD time. I can't remember.
I thought there was one where it was like the kids lost it was the equivalent of 2 days.
Well, 12 hours would, I mean, if a day is about
Right.
6, yeah, so that would be, so if, I think what I did was I added up the time that we have for the half days PD.
Yeah, it was in
And
direct
if we
comparison.
take that out
Yeah.
and add in this, it's about that much of an increase. I mean, we're looking to increase the time teachers have. So the fact that it's higher is not a surprise. I think the issue is that we're trying to do it in a way that is routine. Because I think for families, routine is everything, right? Like once the routine gets blown up, like trying to get your kids to places where you're not planning, having routine is important. Right now, we don't really have routine within our calendar because they're random half days in those places. And that routine is important for teachers in terms of like, if I give an assessment today and I'm not planning to talk to any colleagues about it for 3 weeks, then how can I do anything with that information in terms of how it impacts instruction? Versus if I give that assessment today, it's Thursday, I know that on Wednesday we're all gonna get a room, everybody in 4th grade who gave this assessment and talk about how the kids did and what do we need to do differently in the next unit, that is helpful and useful, right? But waiting till the next workshop day or the next half day is not. That's where the disconnect is.
So you mentioned if it's a late start on a Wednesday, it's just a full day.
For
of
weather,
school.
we'll just cancel that.
So how do you recapture the lost time and work that you would have accomplished? You don't. You just, it's gone.
You just have to adjust the time. I mean, no different than if we had a snow day on a Wednesday, right? I mean, it's just would be preserving so we don't end up having this stupid 2-hour school day. Or sometimes what happens with my colleagues, other superintendents, if they know they're having a half day and we have this funky weather, they end up canceling school when we end up with a 2-hour delay, right? So I'd rather not lose the day. The day is more important in terms of making sure kids come in. That routine's important. So it would just be, I think it'll be really important for me to communicate in the fall, like the when we have snow days and things like that. Like if it's going to be on a Wednesday, we're canceling early release, and just everybody knows it up front. Oh, sorry.
One more question. So if it's about 2 days less a year kids would be in school, was there ever talk to adding 2 more days to the school year to make up for that?
No. What we did we have stayed with in negotiations, so adding teacher days would be part of the negotiations, right? And then all the cost that comes with that. So last year when we lost a couple of days to when the shooting happened in Lewiston, there was a lot of conversation about every day that we tack on to the end of the school year. So if we decided to pay all of our employees for those days out, if you recall. Well, I'm not looking at you, Alex, you weren't here.
Yep.
But we ended up deciding to pay everybody for those days. And then the question is, do we then make them up because we would have not gotten our minimum number of student days? So the total cost of that, if we add teacher days, a workshop day, we're paying teacher salaries. But if we add a student day, then it's teacher salaries, ed tech salaries, busing, maintenance, like it's all that other stuff. So what is a cost for a day? And so we ended up asking for a waiver for those days because we knew that cost would be pretty significant. So in terms of, we can talk about, I mean, if the board wants to talk about adding student days, but there's a couple of items that would need to go into that. So there's the budgetary implication and then the contractual stuff. But if that's something that the board wants to talk about to go beyond the mandatory 175, certainly we can talk about that.
And to that point of other things that come into play is Juneteenth. Like if we don't do remote days and we end up with like whenever our end date for the year falls, and we've got 7 snow days, we end up with a federal holiday that we have to pay for.
It's a consideration, yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing, like taking the parent part out of it of facilitating an early release, I really like this for our staff. I hope that it'll help with retention, maybe bringing some people on board, especially knowing that we have a teacher leaving LCS. I think it'll be an attractor instead of a detractor.
I just will speak real quick to it that I really do not have an issue with the hour early release. One thing I did learn is that at least the majority of my family paid no attention to all of the previous emails that the superintendent sent out, because they just asked me today, what do you mean? What is this early release date? It wasn't a positive towards the early release. I happen to know it's not going to affect them that much, how much ever they want. But it just made me realize that no, nobody knew, you know, there was a large portion that had no clue. And so there still is a large portion that this will be a surprise. So I would like to make sure that we really emphasize, if we go forward with this, this is a significant change to the schedule. And I would emphasize that this is a significant enough change to our schedule that it might warrant the direct individual announcement about this. You know, this only. You know, you can send home stuff with kids, but it doesn't get home. We all know that. So, you know, somehow, some way to say, I realize we're trying to use the robocalls less. When my kid was in school, we used it. But it's really was new. We're all excited. It was used all the time. You know, we get robocalls for events at the high school. You know, just stuff going on. So, anyways, I guess that I only heard a couple negatives, but what I really caught was that nobody really knew about it. As to what Kyle was saying earlier, in regards to I think we do need to have a serious conversation about the remote days. I do appreciate the way we're doing them this year. If we do them, I think this is the way to do them. Do them on days that you know can kind of guess ahead of time. Because the days that you just send them home, days that we have no power at home, makes a lot of sense to have a remote day. Because I know in other districts they're still doing it the old way, and it was just basically it's a lost day of education as far as I'm concerned. I'm still not even 100% sure it's not a lost day of education. And I guess I will probably be supporting it, but I will have to agree. I'm not going to say disappointed because we're trying to go forward, and I realize this is an attempt to go forward with our education. But I am concerned that this is a net loss of educational time, direct educational time to the students. We're doing our job to have better educators. I understand that. I will say, and this is part of a much larger conversation, we spend a lot of money and a lot of time to make our educators better, which every district does, I realize. But part of me says, what are the colleges doing that we're getting these educators from then? You know, we're hiring college, these people coming from supposedly educated in education, and yet we're just talking right now of spending, probably if we tally it up, it's going to be close to $1 million this year. We're going to be spending educating our educators. And part of that's a little bit hard for me to absorb because these are all supposedly professionals. And there is a point that people need to become fresh and so forth. But I have some concern if our professionals that we're hiring straight from our educational colleges need this much consistent work, then I have some concern. But that's a bigger story at another time. But we spend a lot of money doing that. So that's my biggest concern. I see it. That's my biggest concern is that we are losing 2 full educational days, and yet we are so low on our current math and English standards that I really hope that my assumption is this is going to try to, I don't know, I still have a concern there. But moving forward, Jamie.
Yeah, I think my hope in terms of that is like sometimes quality is more important than quantity. And so I'm hoping that the additional time we're giving them, it seems like they're planning that out very well, is going to improve the quality that we're getting, and that will be more important. Because you can spend an hour teaching, but if that teaching isn't well planned, coordinated, then you're not getting as much out of that as a 30-minute lesson that is very organized, very coordinated. So that's my hope. And then I just want to like kind of defend the teachers, I guess, in terms of like wasting money training teachers that are supposed to come trained. I mean, I've been a nurse for 20 years, and I go to so many conferences and trainings, and because things are always changing. new technology is coming out. We're having to be, you know, re-educated about all of these things. Also, when I came out of nursing school, I probably knew nothing. I learned everything at the bedside because you don't know until you're in the thick of it learning something. You know, like I can watch a C-section being done, but I have no idea what I'm actually supposed to be doing until I'm expected to be in. And I'm sure it's the same thing like when you're in the classroom, it feels a lot different. New curriculum is coming out, new materials are coming out. We need to train them to do that. They need to do PD to be better educators. So I think it's money well spent.
I was looking this direction, so Anthony first.
So how are we going to measure how well this all works? So that a year goes by and we can look at it and say that was a good idea. Here's how we can quantify how this actually worked. Is there any kind of plan, or is it just we hope that this is going to work because it works elsewhere?
So there's a couple things. One, and just having been a principal when this was implemented, these were some things that I thought were helpful for me as a principal, sort of making sure that the plans for those days are very clear. So that's, you know, Teresa and I's job in terms of like making sure that that's happening. It's part of our planning with principals to sort of know what that plan is and how it's being used, so the time's being used appropriately. I think Ashley made a good point about surveying teachers about instructional coaches, but I think also asking for feedback on how they're using that time and how that time helped them, especially at the elementary level with the implementation of reading and math curriculum and the middle school. I think asking for what they are doing during that time will be important. And all of this is in response to what we know is not going well, right? I think what happens when in the past, and hopefully this we start to see a shift, but the disappointment in principals and teachers when they've been working so hard and they see test results that don't reflect that, how frustrating that is. And I think sometimes continuing to do the same thing and just doing it more and harder, we need to flip the switch, right? So I think that's why the new reading materials are so important. It's why the new math materials are important. It gives us an opportunity to hit the reset button, retrain teachers, start off with materials that teachers now think addresses the concerns that they see now in kids versus the concerns they might have seen when the math program was first picked, right? Because the kids aren't the same. That was 25 years ago. So I think they know what they're seeing now and what the kids can't do now, so we've got to respond to the kids we've got now. And so I think that is also a piece of that. So I think it's not going to be one thing, but it is part of that database decision making. It's part of that report every year on sort of, we've got these goals in this strategic plan. The data should be looking better, right? We should be looking at that. And if it's not, what are we going to do to address that? So it's the failure rate at the middle school and the high school, it's the achievement data that we look at, it's special ed referrals going down. Like those are all sort of numbers that we've set for ourselves to focus on and look at on an annual basis. And our hope will be, and it should work, that kids will start to respond to that in a way where we can start to sort of keep ourselves from this continual growth of students who end up qualifying for special ed and need all these other additional programs, right? And that's the goal of the inclusion work, which is a huge piece of all of this. Is like, if kids aren't being given access to a regular instruction, how are they ever going to get caught up? And that piece is another piece that we're shifting and changing. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. And so I think Teresa and I are constantly like, is this one too many things? Like, are we going to ask people one too many things before they can't do it anymore and they start to push back? So far, not so much, because everybody recognizes what we need to do differently. But we've got to make sure that we're not asking them to do something that's impossible and do it all in the time that we've given you without any changes.
I won't say much because Carrie just stole that. But I was going to say that on paper, 1 hour on one day of the week doesn't sound like a whole lot of time. But having it like in one of the schedules that you shared with us where it will say continue PLC work is because, right there, yeah. Because teachers request more time all the time. We all do in our jobs and our lives. Like if I only had an extra hour, well, we're giving them that extra hour, and it might not seem like a lot on a Wednesday, but if they can do it again every week instead of, I'll see you in a month at our next half day or in a couple months at the next, you can't get anything done if they're split across so many weeks and months. Like by the time whatever you like started brainstorming on March 1st, by the time you meet again on April 12th, like so much has already changed and you needed more time in between to continue that brainstorming. So allowing teachers to meet every single Wednesday and collaborate will be so beneficial because it's only 1 hour, but I wish that we could give them more time. And then I'll just echo again, like everything Carrie has said, that I think that as we are implementing 2 brand new, strong curriculum materials for math and for reading, we do need to be able to give the teachers time to work on it and plan it, but also to check how it's going. So I'm excited to see this because I feel like, again, instead of saying, okay, in September, this is what we're going to do, we'll see you again in October, so much time has gone by. And if something's not working, they need to be able to have a little bit more time to say, oh, this lesson didn't go very well, we need to adjust and make some reteaching or some new scaffolding or change it up a little bit. And if they wait a whole month, it's too late at that point. You're on to the next unit. So what are you going to do with unit 1? You're already into unit 2. So being able to meet more regularly on a weekly basis, teachers will be able to check in. We will be able to have data to say, how is the program going? How are the teachers implementing the instruction materials? And they can make changes and adjustments more frequently instead of waiting for 5 half days spread throughout the year.
Thank you. Anybody else? This is about the whole calendar. We've been talking about certain issues, but remember, we're talking about the whole calendar. Alex?
I would just say, like Ashley said, I feel better after the presentation that explained it a little bit better, and that there will be a focus on not losing the instructional time on, the math, reading, the subject. Also, what Ashley mentioned, I would entertain the idea of down the road looking at expanding the student day count, just to, if there's a way, not adding weeks or anything like that, but if there's a couple days here and there that makes sense, I don't think that would be a bad idea.
Well, seeing that, I will only add the one thing that can happen, but those of you who are educators and those of us who are married to educators, if we could get the whole LRT, the whole area, change 1 or 2 of those vacation weeks to a couple weeks off, it would save us a lot of money on vacation travel. Just for the record. So if we could just move all those a couple weeks where the rest of the state and the rest of the Northeast is on the same time, and we are a week or so off of that, just think about that.
Okay.
Because, that's just a thought
Put my
to
body
talk
armor
about.
on if I put that one up there.
Not a February vacation on April vacation?
Do 2
No,
weeks
just,
in March.
just
The March
move it,
one.
no,
No?
even if you just move it a week off.
The South does that, so then we would still be traveling.
You could do the
I
February
know.
vacation, but just change the week for a different week than the rest of the state. Think about money. I know that. Relax. You don't realize how important this is.
Oh, I do.
This is how important
Oh, I
this
That's why my family
I
never
absolutely
vacations.
do.
Exactly.
I
So, but we have to do
absolutely
what the whole district does.
Yeah, I hear you.
All right, so, we need a vote on this, correct?
Yeah, yes.
Yes, please.
Because I need to get to the state.
State's fine. All right, all those in favor of the current proposed calendar for the 25-26 school year? Say aye. All right. All opposed? Abstained? I get a nod on an abstain. All right, Carrie, you're up next. We're not
I don't, I
at
think it
fuel yet.
actually was stated. We went with Rinaldi for energy. We're just going to report on it. Can you just report what the prices were? Sorry, I didn't write them down.
heating oil was $2.49 per gallon, and clear diesel $2.58.
Thank you.
Thank you. Look at you, Al.
It was the top sheet.
Nice.
It was the top sheet, so.
Okay,
don't
so,
worry too much.
because the motion had been to allow me to accept the bid, and so I just am reporting that that's the lowest bid you got. Okay, that's it.
So there's no motion.
No motion.
I still question why we didn't take the $6 bid.
All right, look, next time I'll go with the highest bid, okay?
I just can't imagine bidding it. All right. Yeah, it was just seeing the list. It was scared. That takes us to Teresa. Math.
It's a momentous day, people. Oh, my.
Oh, maybe more. Okay. So there is a set of slides in your packet that will accompany the slideshow that I've presented or have created for the purpose of this. Tonight, you will see the overview of the work and improvements to our math curriculum in preparation for tonight's vote. The last approved math curriculum for MSAD52 was dated 2007.
That hurts.
There's nothing wrong with old stuff.
So, it's no secret that I'm very excited to share this work with you this evening. All right, so I wanted to start by giving you a timeline of the work, and as you know, because I've reported, there were two teams working simultaneously. There were the standards team and the instructional materials team, and the slide shows what they were doing here. I think I want to focus on both of them in terms of the components. An email was sent to staff, so all staff had an opportunity to be on the committee, and the committees were formed at the start of the school year. For the standards review, we started by reviewing the main learning results. We prioritized standards. Then we created some charts, which I know it's late, but if you want to see these nifty charts that the curriculum committee shared, I like to carry them around, so that we could vertically compare each grade level, K through high school, to make sure that we were not leaving any gaps. We utilized Atlas. We were able to get feedback from K to 12 teachers, and part of that was in a survey on our January workshop day for the elementary level, as well as conversations with their grade level teams. And at the middle and high school, some of it was facilitated through network meetings and content meetings. And then we finalized the essential and supporting standards, which you will see tonight. And then we presented to the curriculum committee. The same process or a similar process went through for instructional materials, and I'll just go over that because the curriculum committee did see a presentation for that. So the team created a criteria for the selection of the materials. We reviewed samples, vetted programs by using EdWorks and Curate. EdReports. I stand corrected. We met with vendors, and some of the teachers went on school visits to see the teaching happening in the actual schools. Those of us on the team, some of us taught lessons to each other to see how easy it was to plan. We made our final decision, and then I believe it was in February that we presented to the curriculum committee. So the only thing that is not listed here in terms of the standards is pre-K. So pre-K has what's called MELDS, Mains Early Learning Developmental Standards. And at the last moment, but within time, I met with a pre-K teacher, and they had already selected their essential standards for math. So we put those into Atlas together, and you'll see them here tonight. So for the standards team, these are the people that were members of the team. Matt Strong teaches math at the high school. Lindsay Williams is a math teacher at Tripp, as well as the content leader. Danny Gay is a third grade teacher, third grade level leader, and an LCS teacher for grades 3 and 4. Rachel Gentura is a TES teacher. She teaches grade 4. Rebecca Kent teaches kindergarten at Leeds. Amy Musso, Mallory Murphy, they are instructional coaches for Green and Turner Elementary School. And Amanda Gray, who is the new assistant principal at Tripp Middle School. Her previous experience is in math, and she's the only person I know that knows math standards like by letter and name. It's kind of a sight to behold. We met on October 7th, November 1st, and January 28th. So there were 3 meetings for this group.
Those are full days, right?
Full school days that they were out of their classrooms, yes. So we've used a lot of terms in education, and I thought it would be helpful if I explained this here. Well, oh no, hold on. This is in. Okay, so we're going to go with what's up here. We have standards, strands, and performance objectives. And if you go online and look at the main learning results on the Department of Ed website, you will see that there are 4 big strands. So there are 4 units, 4 huge topics. They are quantitative reasoning, algebraic reasoning, geometric reasoning, and statistical reasoning. And this is for K through 12. So yes, even in kindergarten, this is what some of the standards are. So if you look at quantitative reasoning, it explains that the topics are counting and cardinality, number and operations, and base 10, and you can see the other ones that are here. In geometric reasoning, we have geometry. And then those are the 4 strands. If you were to go onto the website, or if you would like a copy of the 100+ page document of math standards, this is explaining what quantitative reasoning is. So this piece right here provides an overview for what one of the strands is. And then when you look at this piece right here, taken from quantitative reasoning, numbers and operations in base 10, you can see across the top in the dark blue is the strand, which is the quantitative reasoning. Underneath is the standard, extend the counting sequence. And then we have performance expectations. I had noted that they were objectives in a previous slide. I prefer to call them performance expectations. I don't know why I wrote objectives. So if you look here, you will see, for example, at the bottom, you can see the comparison between kindergarten, grade 1, and grade 2. And there's a continuum that starts actually in pre-K, but it's not in the main learning results, that explains this right here. So if you look at this, this is kind of the breaking them down, and what you'll see tonight are the performance expectations that we divided into what we picked as essential standards, and then what, I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of how to explain that to you better. Let's just go on and I'll actually show them to you. So here in this slide, and if you want this, I can send this to you, is the link, although you can find it to the main learning results. So this really explains here, this is, oh, I take that back. It's only a 98-page document. But this is how to read the standards. So when you look at this, this is kind of like the little key. So the grade span is early adolescence. The strand is quantitative reasoning, and then there's a standard number. So that's that piece there. Now, the pre-K, I think that's the one that's 132 pages. So this is also available on the main website, and the MELDs include all of the content areas. They're not just math, like the main learning results are broken down by content area. The MELDs are through all of the areas that they address in pre-K. And I think what I really want to spend a couple of minutes with, more than a few minutes, is the standards overview. So I'm going to hand out, and those of you that are on the curriculum committee, you got these, but I made one for you anyway tonight. Okay. So the packet that you were just handed are the standards for pre-K through diploma, which is the high school standards are considered 9 for diploma. And at the top, you will see, I just wanted to give you a little kind of an explanation of what this looks like. So these were printed from Atlas, and at the top you'll see standards overview. Mathematics, ME Mathematics is the main learning results for math. And this example that is up here is grade 3. But if you look at the top of your packet, you can see the first one, it is the early learning and development. It's 46 to 60 months, that's pre-K. And then each page, each subsequent page underneath is all the way through high school. So in order to read these, I wanted to give you a little tutorial, if you will. So if you look right here under quantitative reasoning, I just picked grade 3. So you can see the code here that I have highlighted, the QR, which is quantitative reasoning, C. I'll give you a minute because I think some of you are flipping to grade 3.
The back of the third page.
The back of the third page.
I like though, you can see it right at the top, grade 3. Like I didn't realize that when I was looking at it earlier.
Yeah, if you look at the top, it does list it. So this one right here is the quantitative reasoning standard for childhood, and it's standard number 7. Then underneath is where you'll see our performance expectations. We are calling these standards, but what they really are clearly delineated objectives that we want for our students to be able to do. And if you look right here, it says 3 NBT A2, and then it tells you fluently add and subtract with 1,000 using strategies and algorithms based on place value, properties of operations, and or the relationship between addition and subtraction. If you see underneath here where there's that little E, that means that it's an essential standard. The way that we see it on our end looks a little bit differently, and I'm not sure how it's going to look on the public-facing site, but I can tell you this is what is showing up in the reports. So this performance expectation, this standard has been deemed essential for our grade 3 students. The one underneath does not contain an E, so that is a supporting standards. And the real difference is that they're going to be taught, but an essential standard, an essential performance expectation is something that we want our students to be assessed on, and they can demonstrate that they've learned it. So that's the difference between the two. And then as you continue to go down, then you go to a new strand, algebraic reasoning. So all of the standards from the main learning results have been pulled, all of the performance expectations. It's just that we've sorted them based on our teachers and our students to create some that we've deemed essential, that will be assessed. Those are the common assessments we've talked about, as well as the ones that do not have that tiny E there, they are considered supporting standards. And our goal, I mentioned that we're looking for the public-facing site to be operational by fall of 2025. I will work with the folks at Atlas over the summer, and we actually have a training day in June. We will design what we want our public-facing site to look like, and it will contain all of the approved content areas to that point. And then as more are approved throughout next year, we'll just add them to it. And I don't know if anyone has questions that I can help with.
Bree?
Can you just share, this was shared out, my question, we already answered it in committee, so I wanted you to share out to everyone. What is the recommendation or expectation from the state in regards to why we, as a local district, we can choose certain standards as essential and leave others as supporting? Can you explain that to everyone, what the state's recommendation is?
Did we talk about that?
We did talk about, like,
I think
local decision.
I think it is local decision, but I also think if we look at that 98-page document, I think realistically, it can't be taught in a school year. And I know tonight some people have talked about adding on to the time, but really, if you're trying to teach everything, you're not teaching it to understanding, you're teaching it, you're standing up in front of the students and teaching it. But you maybe, I think that's one real big thing that we've been missing in consistency is all the teachers at a specific grade level saying, yes, these are the standards that we need to ensure that our students have. But in Maine, we do have the flexibility we have to follow the Maine learning results, but we can choose what we believe we want our students to know and be able to do. But if you have anything to add from what I apparently said at curriculum meeting, I'm happy. Peter might remember.
No. Jamie?
I was just wondering if you guys took a vote on this in committee and whether it was,
No.
you did not.
It doesn't need to be voted on necessarily.
I think Carrie and I have talked about it, and it's probably a good idea that in the future we do. But I believed that the people that were there, all 3 members that were there that evening, felt that
Ashley?
it was, but maybe not.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the work we did in committee was around some of those selection materials. That's where my comfort level is. As not an educator, and I think even as an educator from outside of this district, this is a lot. I think it's a lot to ask members of the board who are doing this for the first time I think it's a lot to ask for other members to vote on it and that are seeing this for the first time to really know what they're voting for. Or I feel like a lot of the work we did was like illustrative math. I feel really comfortable with that. Some of the standards, maybe I don't know if I'll ever have the comfort level as obviously you would, because this isn't what I do for a living. Yeah, I was wondering what anyone else takes on it. Is this kind of like foreign language or it's a lot?
To your point, I felt very lost just a moment ago. It's like, am I missing something? Because when I look at what we're talking about, it's recommendation of a math curriculum, but this is standards from Atlas that you guys have collectively chosen, but this is not necessarily like illustrative math.
Well, the curriculum of it, this is the curriculum. The instructional materials are instructional materials. They are not voted on. The standards part of the curriculum are what by law are voted on by the school board. Yes,
not my day job, for sure. I don't understand the difference.
It's late, and Carrie and I have talked a lot about this.
No, and I think, well, just one thing, I think because there has not been an emphasis on curriculum, like, I think there is new learning to this, right?
So
Like,
there's
that's
instructional
absolutely.
materials,
Yeah.
and then there's standards.
Correct.
The materials are what is being taught by people to meet the standards and get them out to our
The
kids.
materials are the tools that are used
Yes.
to
Thank you.
teach the standards.
Capiche.
Jamie?
That was my question. So illustrative math is going to be informing these standards, or these standards inform. Okay. Okay, gotcha.
Now, to clarify, illustrative math, well, anyways, the math program. Well, that we're voting on as part of the budget, in a sense. So if you're against that, you can, that's part of the budget, to do the discussions. And to clarify, in the reading here, you are looking for us to approve the standards that has been selected. Is that correct?
Yes, and someone mentioned Atlas. They are the main learning results standards, which were required by law. The work that we did was around selecting which standards are essential for our students that we will assess and which standards are supporting, which they still will be taught. But we want to ensure with specificity that there are certain things that our students can do.
Absolutely. Alex?
So these standards are all of the standards from the main learning results.
Yes.
And what, you may not have it off the top of your head, which is fine, what percentage of these standards were deemed essential?
That's a great question.
But
And
the
I
answer is,
understand
no,
that-
it's not on top of our head.
No, I didn't expect that. I'd be curious to know.
Okay.
I was a little bit with Ashley, and I agree with Ashley in that this is a lot for somebody who's not math oriented, or more specifically standard oriented. you know, to accept and say, okay, yeah, this is great, and this is the direction, or these are what we agree we ought to be focusing on. I felt a little bit comfortable. The one thing I did take out of the meeting, and what made me a little comfortable, is the fact that it was emphasized by the people there that standards aren't being overlooked. It's more along the lines of at what point during the educational process, because you gotta look at this is a K through 12. So at what point are the standards going to become essential? Because a standard that isn't essential maybe at second grade might become essential at third grade. And it was emphasized at the time, and I assume that's how it's working without me going to look and comparing and so forth, taking some of it at faith, that all of the essentials that are being required by the state are being fit in there over those 12 years. But there's no way and I agree with this, that there is no way can we teach it all and teach it all appropriately in that 1 year. So it's kind of understand that we're not overlooking any essentials. It's just at what point does it go from being a basic, you know, a supportive to a essential one. And I guess that how that was being explained in the subcommittee meeting is what made me feel a little bit more comfortable in what the math people there were actually focusing on okay, so no, so we're not overlooking something. Because one of my first questions was, I want to make sure that we're covering everything, especially for that any of our students who might be going on and need to take an SAT or an ACT. I don't want to make sure we miss anything there, you know, when we get up to the high school level. I said, no, it's all being covered. It's just at what year does it become the important, and what year doesn't it? So that's how I feel a little bit comfortable. This is a lot to take on, boom, I will agree, so.
And can I just speak to that? That this is a lot to take on?
Yeah, but I guess at what point, if it is uncomfortable can this wait a meeting? So that is something that if you do want to digest it, we can do it at the next meeting. I'm not sure if we need to, but that is possible. I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I agree that this is a lot, and I debated whether or not to provide you, I mean, the committee had this at the meeting, and I intentionally did not choose to send it out because I think without an explanation, it's not this is the first time in a long time that this has been done, and I worried that sending this information out beforehand, I mean, it's a lot. I am not a math person, and I have been immersed in this, and I think that I would agree. There's a lot to take in here, and I appreciate you saying, Peter, that standards aren't being left behind. They're just being emphasized at different times.
Anthony?
A couple of things. One, I think that the layman's understanding of curriculum is the standards and the materials that are used to teach those. And so I just toss that out there. I know that that might not technically be how there was this curriculum experts group that was sort of defining the term curriculum believes it to mean, but I think it is important to recognize that if you ask the average Joe or Jane, they're going to say that, and if you ask them what a curriculum is, they're going to think about the standards and the materials. And then I wanted to follow up on a question for Teresa. You said that the essential items are the ones that will be assessed. Does that mean that things that don't have the E on them are not going to be items that are assessed?
Not at that time. When they become essential, then they will be assessed. But if you're looking at first grade and it's not listed as an essential standard, it will become essential. It won't be the exact same standard, but that thread goes all the way through.
To the next grade.
To the next
Somewhere
grade level
along the
and
line,
beyond.
that will be
Yes.
Or-
essential.
Or the opposite,
Like, it could have been essential in kindergarten, and so we'll just continue to reinforce it in first grade. Because they already show that they knew that. So I think it could go both ways. Maybe it's not ready yet, but it could have been, or it could be that they learned it and were tested on it in kindergarten. We're gonna continue to support it in first grade. But it doesn't need to be essential because they already proved it the year before. Vice versa. True?
Yeah, that was part of the discussion. Anthony, is there anything else you wanted to?
No, it's just those two items.
Okay. Kyle, did you have anything? Okay, Teresa, hi Teresa, how are you doing? Gary?
So just a couple thoughts. One, I think it is universally true that all the standards that are created for public schools are way more than can actually be taught in any public schools. So we have to figure out a way to wrangle it, because otherwise there's a difference between teaching and learning. So we can teach a ton of stuff, but if kids don't learn any of it, then there's no point. So the essential piece is what helps us to help teachers, like, yes, you've got a lot to do, but stay focused. Don't forget, this is the thing the kids can't walk away without, so that they can go to the next grade and be able to do that. And I think that's the piece that's important. Like, we talk about all the time, we gotta cover this, we gotta go. I remember having conversations with teachers, well, like, okay, great, you're covering it, great, you're cruising along, but why are all the kids failing, right? So I think that's the piece that we have to always juggle when we're saying how much are we gonna do. Well, it's how much can we realistically make sure that the kids can actually learn so that they can then continue to progress in each. And that's the balance that we're trying to find.
I was looking the other way, so I'm going to be chivalrous and say ladies first.
No,
Great.
thanks. I think Anthony was, but mine's quick. I just want to say, for the record, this is the process that every school district in Maine goes through. Like, every school district chooses essential standards and supporting standards. So it's not like we are trying to skirt it and take an easy way out and only teach less. Like, this, as Teresa was saying, this is what the state suggests, and all school districts are able to choose which ones are essential, which ones are supporting. So, like, every school district does this.
Anthony?
Is there a way to see, like, compare this to what we have now?
From 2007?
I mean, math hasn't changed that much.
I don't
The
know where
standards
those,
have.
I don't know where that is. It would not, if we compared it, it would not be to the current approved Maine learning results.
So
Like, I don't know where that document is that would have our
Right, but
curriculum.
I think I can figure out the analog in the previous one to use math to solve problems in the context of classroom and home experiences. If there's something at all similar, I think I can pick that out.
Are you asking for, like, this math standards before they got revised?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
what were we following in the past?
Also,
So
the
in
Maine learning results.
2007, it
Well,
would've-
so for the past 20 years, what have we been doing for?
People have been using the learning results.
people have been using the learning results, but there's been no necessary consistency. I guess I'm confused by your question, Anthony.
So there really
I-
wasn't a form like you're seeing in front of you?
Because this is Atlas.
Well, this is a
Well, we had a
standard.
math curriculum, I
So
would assume.
people are using instructional materials, although the committee should know that, like, that TES was using different materials. They were doing, right? And so the other elementary were using everyday math. TES was doing something different. So they weren't all doing the same thing. And the question of, like, when people are using instruction materials like a program without standards that guide them, they just go through the program. Like chapter by, I'm just gonna go to the next page, right? This will help facilitate how they're using those materials and what they need to emphasize. That's the difference. So right now, they're using the instruction materials without this to really guide that picking and choosing and where you're gonna emphasize.
I would say you have hit on the primary reason why this had to be done. It sounds to me like we necessarily weren't following the standards. And I realize that sounds bad, but we were kind of playing it by ear a little bit.
Well, some were and some weren't, and some people prior to me were telling people, were given the directive that you had to teach the program. It wasn't about teaching the standards and teaching the students, it was about teaching the program. So like Carrie just described.
So I think you've hit on the reason why we're trying to do something here. Jamie, you were first, I believe.
Yeah, it was my understanding from when we had a curriculum and policy and we were together, that, like Peter always says, like the different schools were picking different essential standards from the main learning results and teaching those. So when they get to middle school, the teachers were finding that like the kids from Green had a better understanding of this part of the math curriculum, the kids from Leeds had a better understanding of this, and so they were having to teach like 3 different sets of, instead of everyone being like learning the same standards across the district, so everyone having the same essential knowledge. And that's why I think this is so important that we vote on this, because it brings everyone together into a standardized, and so it will make the middle school teacher's job easier, the high school teacher's job easier.
Kyle, I believe you were first, and then Ashley.
I guess that my question is, like, if there's, like, with the essentials and is it practical, so, or
Supporting.
supporting, is the student, if, like, as far as grading goes, like, if they fail essential, is that, like, would that hold that student back? And supportive would be, they would be able to.
No, that's not necessarily how it's looked at. It would be that if a student is not, if a student is failing on their common assessments, then at that point, the teacher works to try to ensure that they are able to learn the material, maybe by teaching them in a different manner, maybe giving them some extended time. This is going to be relatively new for some teachers, so that is what we're going to need to do in terms of the work to make sure that we're looking at the assessments and seeing where the standards are matching and being able to support the students. But it's not as clear cut. I don't know, am I explaining that right? It's not as clear cut as you have to pass the essential standards, but if you fail the supporting standards, you're okay, because they all work together.
And that is what teachers should use to create interventions. So if a kid is not doing well on a particular skill, okay, well, we got to give them extra practice, reteaching, like whatever that may be. And they know to focus on the one that's essential. Like if maybe a kid's got a couple of struggles, well, which one do I pick? Oh, I pick the one that gets them on the essentials so that I know that's what is going to prepare them. So I think teachers can get in the habit of thinking everything's essential. And so sometimes they need to be reined in so that they can really focus on, okay, if the kid doesn't learn this right now, they have to learn that. I'm going to make sure they learn that if the kid is struggling.
Sometimes they're called, some districts call them power standards. I don't know if that word is like, that's just a different term, like that they're really, really, really important, and they're important because they are the standards that we believe will support the students' mathematical growth and understanding.
Ashley?
Yeah, I didn't ask this at committee, I was just thinking of it now. Was there any research or looking at other districts that are doing particularly well in mathematics and what their standards look like, their essential standards, or what they're following?
No, we did not. I mean, they're following the main learning results, but we did not include that in part of our standards work in terms of seeing what other districts have selected for standards from the main learning results.
It's going to be cynical. Is there one in the state that's doing well?
No.
And part of me is serious. I'm not sure if there is. Maybe down in Greeley or something. Anybody else have any questions in regards? Do we feel comfortable as a board to vote to move forward with these standards? By voting in support of them, it's basically accepting these are the standards. And do we have to submit these to the state?
No.
No. We haven't got a motion or anything, I realize.
I know, I just realized it too. As soon as you start talking, it's like,
I realize we haven't had a motion,
I
but
make a motion to.
there was some question if it was
I
even a
second
vote.
it.
So we have Brianna with the motion, Kyle with a second. The motion on the table right now is to accept the math standards in front of us. I do have to ask, since the last one's the last 27 years or thereabouts, do we accept the standards for a period of time?
So the strategic plan requires us to develop a review process of curriculum once we've got them in place. So that's going to have to be a part of the work that we do. But that's in there.
So
as
we're
like something we
accepting
gotta
these
do.
standards for the future, and who knows how
Until-
long that
Until we
is.
go into the review process.
Which is typically 5 years, because you want to give the teachers a few years before you're trying to change them again to teach them.
Well, you keep them on the toes.
The only thing that I don't want to say the only thing, but if the state were to drastically change the standards, then we would move up that process. But that is part of this work to develop a plan moving forward, so it's not another 20 plus years.
So we do have an official motion, we do have a second, and right now I've got Alex, then I've got Anthony.
The common assessments. So can you just expound on those? Are those tests we, as a district, developed? And I know we wanted to try to standardize it because we've talked at length about how you can't compare anything to anything because they change and whatnot. So those are tests we developed, or would they come from the curriculum, or?
They could come from the program, like right now with Into Reading, we have, we're in discussions, I'm actually meeting with a committee of teachers next week to try to come up with some recommendations for assessments that we would consider common assessments, but they're part of the program. We don't know fully what math is going to look like, but that is something we would be working on. A content area like social studies or art might develop their own common assessment. And as a district, we could say, we don't like these assessments for common assessments, we're going to make our own. So it's a little bit of both.
And I guess the second part would be, say we started, hypothetically, we started this math curriculum this coming September, I don't know. When do you start doing those common assessments? Do you give it a year, or?
We're already doing assessments with reading now, and so what we're trying to figure out is which ones give us the data that we want or believe that we need across grade levels. So I would say within the first year of math, and I know the high school and middle school has already started working on those. They don't have new math material, well, the middle school does, but the high school doesn't have new math materials. So in that case, that's an assessment that is built by the teachers that might teach that specific course. Like the Algebra 1 teachers would work together and say, okay, this is a common assessment, we want to give it the halfway point through quarter 1 so that we can see how the students are doing with their content.
Okay, so even not in the schools of the new curriculum, we're still working towards developing common.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Because
every teacher at the high school who teaches Algebra 1 is using the same, right? You're comparing apples to apples, and that helps make sure that the kids are all getting the same thing. So each individual teachers might do different lessons their own way, but you know the outcome. The outcome is what we care about, right? Yeah.
And we want to have multiple common assessments because we don't want to just use one data point for like a quarter. So we've got to figure out what that system looks like.
Couple of things. So one, I want to just recognize that the folks who worked to put this together have done a ton of work. And I appreciate that the math standards are very dense to look at and to understand. It's really tough. So I just want to toss that out there because I don't want it to sound as though I'm disrespecting that work and not trusting them. But there's no way that I can look at this casually in a few minutes after 9 p.m. on a weeknight and feel like I've done any kind of due diligence in reviewing this. So I'm not comfortable voting tonight. I'd also like to just toss out, will we be discussing the new math program at any point? Or is this it? Because I just have questions about, we had a math program that cost a lot of money, that didn't meet it just apparently did not work. right? Whether it was because it wasn't being taught properly or whatever, who knows? But that one of the selling points, was oh, the Gates Foundation, Bill Gates is really behind this, thinks it's fabulous. Well, they're behind the new one as well. So there are, I would hate to be looking at spending a ton of money on something new because it's new and people hate the old one for whatever reasons. When I don't know why it didn't work, and I'm not really sure that it would not work with the same kind of rigor that we're putting into making certain that this new curriculum is going to be really taught systematically across the district. I think that is a wonderful move. I'm really glad that we're doing that across the board in all subjects. I kind of wonder why it wasn't already being done as a taxpayer. Like, what the heck? What do you mean it wasn't being done? So I would love to have a little bit more conversation about the selection of that program.
I do believe that, and this is where the subcommittee and this committee is going to start blending in my mind, because we've had quite a bit of discussion over them both. Did we have any sort of discussion on how it was chosen? Seems like we did have something in here,
Yeah.
but maybe not.
You mean at this level?
At this level, did we have a presentation on the math program?
No, it was
It
the
was just at the
subcommittee.
subcommittee, which is where I fall sometimes in my concern that subcommittees don't pass on all the information they should, so that's a different story for a different time. All I can say on that, Anthony, real quick, is that everyday math, which is the one we're getting rid of, right, was evaluated as part of the big picture, and it was low on the list, it was rejected quite low. But I do agree with you. My understanding is it is hard, and I've been forced myself to understand that it is a split. There is the curriculum, and then there's the tool for the curriculum. And right now we're talking about what were the standards, which I guess if you take the word curriculum out of it, you get the standards, and then you get the tool to make the standards happen. So right now we're talking about the standards, and I understand it, and that's where I asked earlier, if we as a committee feel comfortable in accepting, or if we want to wait a week, which it's already been said that it's not the end of the world if we do wait a week on the standards. As for the curriculum, not the program, as for the tool, and the materials, and the service and all that stuff, you're right, it's probably going to be around a $250,000, maybe a little bit more.
No, it's less than that.
I thought it was 200.
200 for math and reading.
Oh, okay, I thought it was 200 plus, and I was adding some for all the
No,
other
I think
stuff.
the math materials are 150.
Okay, so say 175 or so for.
Gabby, you don't have that number? I want to say it was 154. I feel like
So,
math was
so it is
154.
quite a chunk that we're putting into it this year. Of course, everything I think here is quite a chunk.
Some of the math materials do include everyday math for K-2 because we are
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
adopting them for next year.
It's just enough to get us by for a year because they don't want to overwhelm the whole idea of reading is more important than math at the K-2 year. But that is all part of the budget. So we have one more meeting that if it were accepted as part of the budget. So I don't really see a way unless
I mean, if the board wants a presentation on how those materials were selected, we can do that.
When do we have is it the
Between now and the end of the year, I mean.
Yeah, but the thing is, between now and the end of the year, but the thing is, between now and when we vote on it to be part of the budget,
Oh.
that I don't see happening. Because our next meeting.
Yes, but we can present that process, how we got there, I mean, just sort of provide this similar information, I mean, we can do that, if people want that.
We can, but it doesn't answer the problem of discussing it, concerning about it prior to making the big financial decision on it. So I'm sensing a weakness, and we got to address this weakness for the future in the subcommittee level, especially if something that's important. But anyways, that's a long diatribe to get back to the simple fact we have on the floor right now, a motion and a second for the standards. The standards, regardless of whatever we use to implement the standards, is still the standards. You know, they are what's required by the state. I would have questioned them until I was convinced that we are addressing all the standards by the end of by the time that if they stay with us for the 12 years, we at least address them all. So I guess at this point, that doesn't answer your question, Anthony, and I don't know if there's a way for us to answer the question regarding the other part. But with that, does anybody else have any questions or comments?
No, I was gonna move to.
Oh, yeah, no, that's, we're there anyway, so. All right, so with that, all those in favor of the I'm right at the last minute. What's up?
Well, what I would like to do is move to postpone the vote to the next meeting, so that we actually have a chance to review this.
All right, you said, is there any real issue for postponing it till, it would be after the, see what it, no, April 10th is a budget meeting, right?
No,
No,
April 10th is a
April
regular
10th is a regular meeting.
So we don't have a second to that motion,
No, I know, but I was
Okay.
trying to think if there's, and actually, that's not necessarily a motion. If I remember, he quite often just will do this. But does he do it a motion, or does he vote on
I
it?
think you need a
No,
motion.
Yeah, with
and a
motion to
vote.
motion, yeah, it does. But, I was just trying to think, is it, well, April 10th is, when do we do the final budget?
April 10th is when you guys vote on it, but I mean, this.
But it's not part of the budget, okay,
Yeah,
that's
this-
not a budget, okay, yeah.
They don't have to be connected.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyways, that being said, is there a second on, we have a motion now to postpone it to the April 10th meeting to discuss it. We have a second by Alex. Any discussion on that? All right, so right now we're gonna vote on the postponement. All in favor of postponing to the April 10th meeting, the discussion of, well, you know what we're talking about. All those in favor? Is that 4 or 5? We got 5.
Oh, hang on. Oh, you have your hand up. I missed you, Peter. I'm sorry.
All those opposed?
So, pretty much.
It's not like it's going away. It's getting time.
Can't move forward with anything.
Okay,
Just we're letting it absorb the silence.
so we'll put it back on the agenda.
Okay. All right, that is it for all of our regular business. If I'm not mistaken, we do have an executive session. Anything else? So we do not adjourn, correct?
So what time, wait, what time?
It is currently 9:47.
So you need a vote in executive session.
All those, could I have a motion to go to executive, please? We got there, we got a second over here. All those in favor, going to executive? We're going to library.
Going to the library.